Joe was calling it the other day.
Oh, Joe called it our money.
Yeah, our snow peso is worth about a 140. So 140 US to $1 Canadian dollar. CAD, we call them around here. Okay, all right, good one. Thanks for the hookup on all these things. And
now I want to eat.
Yeah, we'll get it all figured out. Maybe we should open. Maybe we'll eat. Maybe we'll open one. We'll open the one that Joe did. We'll share it with everybody.
Yeah, because if Joe bought one and he doesn't want it,
right?
Then
that way we can share it.
Then this is ours.
Yeah, we'll share it with everybody, and then I'll take whatever you have, and then we'll figure that out from there. All right, it's 1:03. Ciao for now. Back.
Get
to
your
the midday
fofo.
Show.
Greetings and salutations, beautiful people. Welcome to the Midday Show. That's your boy, Joey Options, and I'm Sharif. And welcome to this late morning on a Friday. Who we got in the chat? We got One Micro Trader. Shout out to other Zinc and Durant, Gordon, Flow Grades in the house, and Dangerous. Shout out to Drew and Got Rats. We got Ben, Mr. Easy Street, and Why Not? Shout out to Nomo and Evan, Ozan. Shout out to Hina and Mike. Chris, PC Hoon, Ricky G, and Bax. We got another Omar in the house. Shout out to Adrian and Cowboys Cheeseburger. John, we got Tyrant, Hamilton, and Showtime 757. Darth Trader in the house as well. Shout out to Moonshot. Danny Patel, Epflow Portfolio, Roger Noonan, Fluffy something or another, Carl Williams joining us, and so is Vaughn Clark. Shout out to Not Navin and Starvin Like. Victor Cap something or another. We got CEO Mixel Ventures, Glaze, Michael Baldwin joining us, and Rob Beck. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, Joseph.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I like that there, chase the packs. I was talking about Amazon the other day. I like it for a potential swing there, especially off of those lows. But all right, guys, let's see what we got going on here. One attempt here on SoFi didn't work out for us. We take a small loss on that one, and then we take a small loss on Tesla long as well too. Climbs right back up, and then we take a little long here on NVDL. Straight to the punch, guys. 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio on that one. So holding on to some green here on the session. Took 2 L's on, an L each on on TSLL and SoFi, and then now we were rocking and rolling in NVDL. We're all out of that one, looking to potentially take another opportunity here somewhere along the lines. Going to be patient. A nice indecision print on the TQs. Other than that, yeah, that's what I'm looking at here. Nothing crazy. It's more of a quiet Friday. We know that volume obviously start to cool off a little bit on Fridays, and it's options expiration as well too. So keep that in mind. But nice indecision print, volume supporting it. Let's see if it continues to hold this base on the TQs. Maybe we get involved on the lower end of the range. And if these big boys like the likes of NVIDIA, Tesla, and some of the other mega cap names want to start to continue to rally and recover from this morning's sell-off, then I think we'll be in a pretty good position. But packing patience, waiting to see what comes next. And then, yeah, waiting for that prestige opportunity, Shreve.
All right, man. Good luck. Good luck. Just setting up some of my orders. All right, here's what we're doing. We've got one trade on right now, NUAI. Just one profit taker over here, seeing a bull flag form on the 5, a bit of a longer consolidation on the 1. A series of higher highs and higher lows has me interested in this one. It's also a holdover from yesterday, and it's up a respectable 61.5% on the day. We've got 22s on. Best print we've got so far is in the high 20s. So going to keep my eye on them. This one, it's done about 80 million shares. As I said, it's a holdover from the day prior. So be careful with this one, okay? Sometimes they don't tend to trade as good. Maybe second day around. We'll wait and see. But it has AI in its ticker, so you never really quite know. Next one we've got involved in right now, dvlt, also happens to be a holdover from yesterday. This one was trending down. As you can see on the 5-minute on the bottom chart, there were substantially lower highs over here. I have to digress because NUAI just absolutely broke out to the high side, so we got to take profits on that one. Be careful with NUAI, guys, okay? Here we go. It's coming into that $0.50, so we're going to set up just in front of that into 48. Now showing me 46. It's now up 78.25%, and the volume is really picking up. But if I've seen this one trade before, I've seen it 1,000 times. Watch out for the reversion near areas of technical or psychological resistance. So here it comes right back down after making a 248 high. That's why we take profits. So this was the one I'm talking about. I have substantially more share size in dvlt than I have in NUAI, and I'm pleased with that because this one has a better looking trend. It had a downtrend, very clear, lower high, and another third lower high, and that had me very interested in this one. And look at it absolutely break out to the high side. It is now at the high of the day. I'm talking about DVLT. We've got shares on this one, so we need to profit take at these levels. Good breakout. So again, I really want to stress, I didn't want to guess when this one was going to break down, so I drew the trend line. It clearly deviated from the prior trend of lower highs, and I was rewarded for waiting. So be careful with this one as well. NUAI and DVLT are bamboozlers in chief. Keeping my eye on both. Back now to NUAI as that one also gets into the high of the day. We're going to pack our patience into 48. If it does trigger my 48 order, it will be the last profit taker I take for a while, because I'd like to see where this one goes, Joe.
All right, good look there. Yeah, I think we're going to get involved in just a small size on the short here in Bitcoin. It could be wrong. Maybe we'll be a little bit more patient on this one as we're starting to break through some of the resistance. But one thing to note, guys, look at the volume. It's really, really starting to cool off, right? So as you run into those zones, you want to see it pick up, and it's not necessarily doing that. And we're right at the top end of the range. So yeah, let's just do it, right? We can give this, we're going small size here. We'll take the little short at the top of the range and then just give it to the volume weighted average price just in case it wants to break. But if we look at this from the daily, for me, I'm looking, hey, there's going to be some more downside. We've seen that Ethereum put in a negative 6% day yesterday and gap down a little bit this morning as well too. So let's take a look at what we're looking at here. That makes a lot of sense. So there it is, daily. We'll pull up the daily. And here it is, right? So you're at the lower end of the range. I don't know how much of a massive rebound we're going to get, like we're heading into support. And then I think at some point here, and maybe in the month of September, you do crack through that lows. And then you just want to be patient enough, wait for some indecision, and then maybe you can get somewhere around 100,000, maybe a little bit more than that. And a hammer candle would be beautiful with some volume supporting it. And then boom, 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 you can take it to that new all-time high. It's crazy that this thing still essentially hasn't hit 125. Surprisingly so. And again, Tom Lee has a pretty bullish outlook on it. I don't know if it was his base case, bull case, whatever it may be, but he says 200K, right? So that's pretty much almost a double from this point. So we'll be patient. There's still a lot of time left within the year. We got October, November, December, obviously. And yeah, I mean, anything can happen in those times. You get those positive catalysts slowly start to accumulate, and it can definitely skyrocket the underlying asset. And definitely, we thought that we were going to get a little bit bigger of a pump with the previous rate cut, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So maybe on the next, if we do get another couple more before the end of the year, that would be enough to fuel this fire, and you can break through those previous all-time highs there, Sharif.
Good luck, Joe.
Thank you.
NUAI is going, guys. It's a new high day, 255. We're not taking any profits here, though. We're going to continue to wait. It either comes down, stops me out, or continues to go. I won't be adding it to this one either. So 255 HOD. New trade, though. We've just entered RCT on the NQ. It's up 20 2/3. My thinking with this one is this is a prior area of resistance. I'm talking about 185, a 196 high, comes back down, holding 185 now on a 4-candle basis. Doesn't mean it will forever and ever more. It just means that I'm trying to put the odds on my side. So I'm looking for profit taking at 90, 93, and 96. It is currently a 1 penny spread and not a bad look. Anything below 182 ends the trade. Simple as that. Back now to DVLT. It's got a high, as I mentioned, of 138, but it is not continuing, okay? So I did take some profits here in the high to mid 130s. I still want to hold the majority of the position for continuation. It is certainly putting in a lower high, a higher low, excuse me, on this current 5-minute candle, but what's been negated still is a higher high. So we'll continue to wait on that. Quickly checking here on RCT as we get a first print at 90s. Now waiting for that print at 93, showing me 93 on the ask. Has to cross on the bid to get that continuation. Waiting, patient, got the fill. Now showing me 95s on the ask. Waiting. Let's see if we can get 96s. Packing the patience there. We'll continue to watch. Back to now DVLT as this works back into the high of the day. There's a seller at 38, and you don't need to be a super tape reader to see that. More size coming on the level 2 than is posted, or sorry, on the time and sales, than is posted on the ask at level 2. Clearly a hidden seller. We'll have to see how long his order keeps down this price action for. Currently about a few hundred lots sitting at 38s, and none of it is getting taken out, meaning that we're probably still have a little bit ways to go. Fine by me. We'll continue to pack the patience. Moving back now to NUAI, it is coming back down after rejecting that $0.50. It is a 55 print. We have 23s. It is now coming back down into 37s. Need to be careful with that, okay? Watching again with RCT, waiting for that print into 96. 96 is the high of the day. That was this candle over here. We didn't quite make it up into 96 on this last ascent. Venu, $5 super chat. Thank you.
Ooh.
Reads as follows. Thoughts on BIAF? Not bad. Good looking bull flag. You may have to wait a while before you get the breakout. You clearly have a range at play, 7 to the top side, generally 550 to the downside. There are outlying areas at times. Obviously, 729 is the high, and you obviously have this area trough that gives up 5.25. I'd play the range on this Venu until you get a breakout. If you get a breakout to the high side, if you do, it's going to be above that 7.25 ish area. Let me know how it goes, brother. We'll continue to watch this. BIAF is certainly not a bad look. It's one that I've got on my side chart as well, but I didn't set up on it because it was, and it is, in fact, trading currently below the volume weighted average price, but I do like the chart pattern, Joe.
Good look there. Yeah, all right, Cowboy Cheeseburger. Let's take a look at that one. Went for a nice walk yesterday evening as well, too. I don't know why that made me think of it, but yeah, some nice burger spots on College Street and everything along those lines. So yeah, I mean, this is what we're looking at. You have a double top here, essentially almost to the penny. Again, right? So you don't necessarily, I think correlating your intraday trading with your daily is extremely, extremely important. At times I lax on it, and then when you go back and you look at the chart, you're like, am I in breakout territory? Am I in a territory where the stock has potential to go up or down? And I think it's really, really important. For me, going through my routine, as I mentioned, I do not take it as seriously as I should. Obviously, I look at seeing what's going on, but you want to kind of just start from, say, you want to go to your intraday chart, you go from your 1 and your 5 minutes, then you go to your 30 to an hour, whatever it may be, and then you want to take a look at your daily. And if a lot of it says, hey, yeah, we're ready to put in a little bit of a move higher, or it looks like we're going to break down, and I think that's important. So for me, if you ask me, when you reject that level so aggressively on yesterday's session, I'm not going to be looking for a continuation in strength, and I think it's important, as I mentioned before, to just correlate all of your time frames as closely as possible, and I think that's going to increase your probability as well too in success on that specific trade. So yeah, I think with that one, it's just not ready to break out. It's at the lows. It's double topped. Keep an eye out for that neckline just in case that snaps as well too. There's going to be some more potential downside, or is it heading towards some key support level like with the example we used in Bitcoin? It's heading in that direction. And here we go, right? So we got a little bit of a move down here in IBIT. Now we took some off. We're still sitting on about 60% of it to see what we can do. If it comes back to the break even, we'll hop out. We'll keep an eye on that specific resistance level throughout the duration of this trade to see if there's going to be another opportunity to get involved. If the volume is cool every time we go and knock on the resistance door, then I'm going to continuously try to play the zone within Bitcoin. Now you're starting to get a bounce, right? So you're selling the tops, you're buying at the lows, and that's kind of what we're just going to try and rinse and repeat here on IBIT, all right? With that being said, let's take a look at some of the top performing sectors on the day and see what we got going up. And then we'll obviously take a look at the weekly. I'm going to assume that we are probably red on the week on a lot of the major averages, but I got to keep my eye on here on this Bitcoin trade just in case. All right, let's get out of that one. So we're out at that break even, not too bad of a look. All right, guys, leading the way, we have the energy sector up 1 0.4%, utilities up 0.9, and then we have the industrials up about 0.6%. Now for the bottom three, we got the communication services still holding on to green by a thread, up by about a tenth of a percent, and then we have the consumer staples still holding on almost green. There it goes, bang, you get that green, 0.01% green there, and the only red sector on the day is going to be the technology sector, down a third of a percent there, guys. All right, so let's take a look at what we got going on for this week, and there we go. My assumption was right. We're down 2 1/4 on the IWM, we're down 0.6 on the Nasdaq, and then we're down about 0.4 on the SPY and 0.25% on the Dow. All right, so not too bad. I mean, the Dow you can't really complain about that. Obviously, IWM I thought would be performing a little bit better considering it had to get that rate cut. And a lot of people say, hey, yeah, when you're in a rate cut cycle, it is extremely bullish for the small cap street.
All right, guys, RCT is really going here now. It's a 204 high. It's breaking out. It's got a lot of momentum now. When I started watching this, it was south of 1 million shares. It is now well over 3.5. And here we go, 206 high of the day. Let's go ahead and take some profits up at I'm going to put 207. Let's see if we can get a nice move into that 7 penny area. We're currently showing 6s on the ask side of the level 2 with a good amount of volume coming in here on the time and sales. So up 32, almost 33% as we trade near the highs. I'm going to continue to watch that. We can pack our patience, not too many outs at this level. Here we go. Now we're showing 7s on the ask, and it looks like that size is getting taken out, and we're crossing. I see 8s coming there on the on time and sales, and I have no idea why I'm not getting filled, and this has been a consistent thing with not getting filled, despite the fact that I see it coming in on the time and sales. And here we go, 212 now, high of day. This is really going. So good strength, and there was really no holdup at that $2 level. I was watching, anticipating that there would be resistance at the whole dollar. There was none. It basically went through it, and here it goes. 215 now, high of day. 217 high of day. It's breaking out as we speak. Watch out with this one. It can revert in a quick second. We're going to go ahead and take profits at this level up here. Good move up for RCT, but be careful with the reversion. I'm also keeping an eye here on DVLT. I'm in at 29s. It is now back to 30s. This is a breakout area that I gauged. I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes of rejections of that 130 area before we decidedly took it out at 1107. I don't want to overlook the fact that this 130 area was a key area of resistance, and as such, I should look at it as a possible key area of support. Whether or not it ends up doing that is entirely up to it. So what I've done is I don't want to get wicked out. So anything below 128 ends the trade for me. I'm long 129, so I'll give this one 1 penny worth of room. So that's my look on DVLT. We're still holding shares on this one. And last but not least, NUAI is still continuing to hold. Yes, another 30 penny area that was a breakout level. 1 time rejection, 2 time, 3 time, and then finally on the 4th, we cleared 230 as an area of resistance. I'm long 223. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give it back to my area of entry. I'm going to give it to that 230 because that's the area of possible local support. So I'm going to give it a little bit of room below 230 so that I don't get wicked out. 228, 227 is where I draw the line. RCT, right, as I said, watch out for the reversion. Makes a high of day of 220, comes right back in now into single digits, showing 8s. We've still got some on this one. I can pack my patience. Let's see if we can get a test of this 195 area. I perceive 195 to be the breakout area. Whether it is or it isn't, we'll have to find out. Kelvin, GTS, $10 super chat. Thank you for that. Not a fan of small cap caps, but I have respect. This man's beautiful mustache, handsome man. Tell us about your swing account, top 3 holds. Thank you for the compliments. So I am holding right now MP Materials. This is in my swing. I'm holding MP. I'm holding Joby. And the third one in my swing, American Eagle. So those are the three that I'm in. I'm in the money in all three, but I am the most concerned about Joby. I find it to be highly volatile and highly unpredictable. I may or may not transfer MP materials into my long-term account, really depending on the fundamentals and how they evolve, with obviously the U.S. government taking, or the Pentagon taking a stake in the name. So thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the compliment. Those are my top three. Joseph, what do you got?
Good look there. Yeah, I'm just looking at American Eagle here, just seeing if I'd have to fork up some cash for those jeans there by the end of the year. So yeah, anyways, guys, let's see what else we got going on. We'll go through the couple of names here. NVIDIA was a nice win for us earlier on the day. A good 2-to-1 there. We're not going to complain about that. And then we'll also take a look at that. So there it is, right? So you kind of just get this squeeze higher, and that's why you get out when you're supposed to, because it could continue to the top side. But I don't know, I just have this feeling that's not necessarily going to be the case. As I mentioned from before, is that look where we're sitting at from a daily. We're not in breakout territory. We're not in any of those realms. So continuous flushes to the downside, I think, is going to be my game plan, especially if we continue to reject the volume weighted average price. We'll talk a little bit more about potential setups right after we get back from Madeira.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know here about the market. I'll pull up the Nasdaq here. Citigroup is making some commentary about global growth, so keep an eye here on the market. Citigroup saying they expect global growth to slow below 2% in the second half of 2025. They also expect global growth to rebound to 2.5% in 2026. So Citigroup guiding slower global growth in the second half of this year, but they do expect a bit of an uptick starting with next year. They also said they expect in tariffs to, quote, increasingly bite. So Citigroup expecting that we will continue to see, I guess, an increase in tariff-related impacts on the economy. But then again, global growth should rebound in 2026. Back to you.
There is a substantial seller here at 138 on DVLT, because we are right back into that 138 level. This is the third time on the 5-minute chart that we've been here, and we haven't been able to shake it. There is a substantial seller, both hidden and posting. As I was watching the tape, as I was watching the level 2, you could see the size come on to each and every single gateway. So whoever's distributing their sell order is posting it onto multiple gateways. In addition to that, you can clearly see there are times where the time in sales is showing you 138 prints, but you reference back to the level 2 to see if any size is getting taken off, any of the gateways on the ask at 138, and it's not. So there's both a hidden seller and people posting onto the gateway. It feels as if, though, if we continue to make these higher lows into 138, whoever's selling at 138 is in trouble, okay? If we continue to make higher lows. If we lose this 130 area, I'll have to change my opinion on that, because this 130 area was the area that we earmarked as an area of previous resistance. As such, it should act as a level of support. Whether the sellers can outdo the buyers at this level remains to be seen. So that's what I'm continuing to watch on now. This is the one that I have more shares in. I will continue to hold a little bit here into NUAI as it comes back again to test that 230 area. NUAI also suffering from that lower high affliction where we made that 255 high, and then every subsequent candle after this 255 high has been lower highs and lower lows. So we'll continue to watch and see if we can get something on this one. I have my out a little bit below 230, as I mentioned, as we won't want to give this all the way back into my entry. And here we are showing now a few prints below that 230. So I'm just canceling some prior area stops on these names, and that's what I'm looking at right now. I also want to bring to your attention a couple of other small cap gappers that could be of interest to you. The first and the foremost is SSKN. This is a good looking name. It very much looks like a bull flag, and a bit of a bullish bull flag, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is the flag component of the bull flag has higher lows and higher highs. It is not horizontal, nor is it tilting down with lower lows and lower highs. So I like this pattern a bit more. It's a little bit harder to gauge where the breakout may be, though, on this, because it's continuing to make higher highs. So SSKN, up about 29% and a little bit less. So I'll keep my eye on that. Secondly, curx. This one has been dancing with that $1 area. It has a really good move off 67 pennies from where it closed yesterday, and it was basically defending the 10 exponential moving average on the 5 all morning, and then at around 11 o'clock, typically when the buy programs get shut off and or the traders who are trading this go for lunch or an early break, we've been consolidating now for about half an hour. So ever since clearing that one, getting into 105, dropping back down, the best we've done is a 101 print, and then maybe a little bit into 98s as well. So it's consolidating, it's not giving it back, so I would keep an eye on curx. Not a whole lot of volume though, so you need to be careful. Last but not least, FOFO. I had an ill-fated trade on this. I actually got a couple of scalps on this one before I got stopped out. It did lose VWAP, and that made me lose the trade. So those are the ones I'm looking at, Joey. We'll continue to watch BIAF as well as it trends to the side.
All right, cool. Ozan, brother, you're telling me you're buying 1,000 contract leaps? That's insane. Like, that's a lot of cash, brother. I don't even know what strike price you have, but that volume isn't even there. I don't know what, obviously I don't know your expiration cycle. I was just going to a leap, so that'd be an expiring a year from now today. But even so, my guy, if you're buying 1,000 contracts, that's some cash, my friend. Even if you go to like January and stuff like that, like you're paying $5,400 and you have 1,000 contracts. Come on, man, that's some real cash. I guess that's why Katina Man calls you the cash cow. Let's take a look at some writings here. So I'm just looking at some things 14 days out. Again, against my position, I don't even know what specific strike price I have on my contracts, to be honest. It might even be the 65s or something like that. But yeah, so again, just going to look to sell some premium here, nothing serious. My expiration on the contracts isn't until March. So next year, I would prefer not to hold them until then, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. $66. We're starting to get a little pop. I like that. We can write 3 or 4 of these here at $44 and collect $44 a contract that expire in 2 weeks. So that's not anything horrible. Obviously, you're susceptible to overnight risk. 1,000 strike price on. Oh, okay, not 1,000. Okay, brother. I'm like, what the helly? All right, cool. Let's pull that one back up. You got that $1,000 strike price. Yeah, and you mentioned. But these are deeply out the money though. I don't know. I don't understand, because you're using your delta, using 0.8 delta, but you have the $1,000 strike price. That 0.8 delta puts us right around that 880. So those are deep in the money. So yeah, whatever. Retype what you were doing in there. Maybe I misread something or along those lines. I was just curious to what you had set up specifically. And yeah, I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad that it's not 1,000 contracts, because that would be hefty. You would be the majority of the liquidity there, which I think would be pretty funny. And then they would probably just hunt you at the end of the day, but who knows? Yeah, but anyways, back to my story over here at 66. You're collecting $45 per contract, so I don't even need to bull call spread those, because I already have the contracts. So whatever happens, and if you end up getting a sign, then you just make the difference between the contract and the price, which I think I'm totally cool with. And what do I have? Okay, so I have the 66. So essentially what I have there is, it's not necessarily, it's like an inverse risk reversal essentially on that one. So I have the 66 calls. My average price is $8.64 right now, and they're currently trading at, let's see, what are they trading at? Let's pull this chart up. They're trading at $7, right? So if you have a bunch, $7.20. So like I'm $1.40 out on each specific contract, which isn't obviously the best, but it is what it is, and that's why we're going to look to write something along those lines. Now, as for this climb, you break through this resistance here on Bitcoin, and now we're continuing its ascent to the top side. So maybe that won't come into play. You're not going to be able to range trade it, considering that you're getting that bounce off of those lows. I like that Gorev's in the TQQs. You had that 5-minute. So you said you liked this 5-minute, but when you mentioned it, Gorev, you were at 99.17. I didn't see anything specifically there, but it was this that I was keeping my eyes on. And then you have that base right at $99, right? So that's something positive. With that being said, we'll take a look at the chain and see what we got going on there. Is there any substantial puts at that $99 strike price? that can give us a potential put wall. And I mean, from an open interest standpoint, we got 4,100 there, and then the volume, we have 6,000. It is the second largest. It's the second largest volume on that on the put side. That is, we're going to go to Shreve, then Adara.
All right, guys, I have to bring to your attention Ford, because this is what Ford is doing. This is the 5-minute chart on Ford, and there's one red candle. Can you guys spot it? It doesn't even look red. So Ford is very strong. Trade it carefully. There are several headlines that could account for this. First and foremost, U.S. auto sales are forecast by J.D. Power to rise 4.5% in September amid the temporary EV demand spike. Separately, there is the new possible tariffs on heavy trucks, where Ford obviously will shine because they make their cars domestically. Adara.
Let's talk here about crypto. I want to start with Bitcoin, which is very much in a range. This is the 15-minute chart. As you can see, this is looking a bit like that bear flag. And Shriv's talking about the horizontal action you sometimes see in these flags. Absolutely, you can see this on Bitcoin. Top here of around 110,000, but we're notably not breaking above it. Base around 108,800. Let's see how it fares within this roughly 1,200 point range. Ethereum on watch as well. 15-minute chart for Ethereum looking slightly better than BTC. We do see still fairly rangy, but slightly higher lows and attempts to make higher highs as well. Now let's take a look here at the daily chart for both of these. We'll start with Ethereum. Daily for Ethereum, much like what we're seeing with a lot of these crypto names. This was weak yesterday. Ethereum also, right now, today, though, trying to break a 5-day losing streak. Let's see if it's able to crack and crack that weakness and continue to the upside. Bitcoin only on a 1-day losing streak, not even a streak. You just had one weaker day yesterday. Again, this one, in addition to that 100,800 level more locally on the daily, let's see if we can hold that 107,400 level. Not a lot of crypto specific catalysts on watch today, though. Of course, we did have a lot of weakness in crypto yesterday. Some of these names were trying to rebound pre-market, not faring the best, though again, BTC and Ethereum are certainly making some attempts. Also, Cypher Mining, of course, yesterday we had that Google news. They're taking a 5% stake in the company. That's from yesterday. Nothing new today, guys. Back to you.
Anything you want to cover
watching
there?
NUAI. I'm back involved in this one, continuing to look like it wants to hold the 10 EMA. It does have a couple of wicks through 40 that didn't print, so I would be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, I'm keeping an eye on RCT. Really lost the bid there aggressively after making the high of the day. It did find support right at the volume weighted average price. That would be the $1.90 area. Good support there and rocketing right back up above the 10 EMA and trying to reclaim two. It's back at 199 in and around that area. So I would be interested in punching in on this one depending upon what the subsequent candle does. Once this 5-minute candle closed, which it just did. Let's see now if 1, we can hold prior bar low. 2, whether we can close green. Currently, this candle that just opened up is red, so it doesn't interest me. So that's what I'm keeping my eye on. It's really going to be focusing on NUAI and whether or not the higher lows are going to be operative or whether or not the lower highs that we're currently putting in are going to outdo the higher lows. So that is what I'm keeping my eye on. I'm also keeping my eye on CURX, as I mentioned, because it is flat top-ish. This specific one here, it's got a long range now in and around $1 to $1.01 with a $1.05 high. It's neither losing nor reclaiming any prior areas. So what I'm keeping my eye on are whether or not we're putting in lower highs or higher lows. The way I see it, we're putting in higher lows. So unless this is being set up as a trap, to trap the longs, this feels like it, number 1, will claim and hold the dollar area, and number 2, it could spike up quite nicely. It does have decent amount of volume, maybe not so for a dollar name. I'm talking about 13.25 million shares traded since 4 a.m. It's up 48.5%, likely will be on a lot of people's scanners, but may not be participated in by some algorithms as a result of it not having cleared the dollar fully. It's sometimes trading below the dollar, sometimes trading above. That's what I'm keeping my eye on now, Joey.
All right. So as for Robinhood, this is what we're going back to see what we were just previously talking about. Is that, okay, we like this hammer candle right here, but then if we take a look at the daily, and see what we have going on. Look, so you're heading right towards the lower end of support levels. So how deep is this bounce going to be? You have to take, it's almost like you have to take the stab, but then it's just like, again, at the same time, you're kind of convincing yourself, no, it's not in that specific level that we're looking for the bounce. I mean, the overall market is continuing to slowly grind higher. Tesla bounced off the lows. We've had NVDA rejecting the volume weighted average price multiple times. We have a couple of the crypto names now north of the volume weighted average price. What is, let's take a look at Microsoft to see what that one, Microsoft and Apple to see what that's up to. Yeah, so Microsoft extremely weak here today on this session. South of the volume weighted average price. Dara, what do you got?
Yeah, this is an interesting look here. So asset entities, this is a social media marketing related company. I bring this up because this catalyst is a bit odd and a bit, I guess, circular. Bryson DeChambeau is partnering with Google Cloud to explore AI and sports performance. Now, what does this have to do with ASST? Well, I had to look into this. Bryson DeChambeau is apparently or Strive, I guess they're now doing business as Strive. He's their golf partner. So Bryson DeChambeau, again, who has a partnership with ASST, is now also partnering up with Google Cloud. So ASST getting a little bit of a pop on this. I'll take a look at GeoOGL as well. But either way, interesting look here. Assets or Strive's golf partnering with Google Cloud as well. Back to you.
Cool, good look there, Dara. So yeah, Gaurav, I mean, you might be right there, potential bounce, but again, we're starting to fill some of that wick in, and that's what I don't like. Let's take a look at Google actually from an intraday standpoint, considering Adara was just talking about it. Yeah, not too good of a look there. Some of the mega caps starting to come back in. South of VWAP now, we got NVDA with the third rejection of the day, and then we got the TQs with a multiple rejection of that specific level. IBIT now south of it as well too, Sri.
All right, guys, I'm in SSKN, looking to catch the dip off the volume weighted average price. This actually triggered as a result of a resting order that I had. I didn't punch in live into this. I'm looking for it to continue possibly back into the $0.50. There is a seller at 44, and there has been a seller here at 44 for a while. The spread is sometimes wide. I've seen it as wide as 5 pennies. Currently, it's down into 3. It's just 2. So make sure you're accounting for that in your stop placement as well as your profit-taking placement. So I'm talking about SSKN. Hasn't done too much in the way of volume, which is a concern to me. It's a little bit less than 1 million shares, 925,000. It only really started doing volume at 9:30, which could explain maybe why it doesn't have the requisite amount of volume, which typically for me is about over 1 million. So we'll continue to watch that and see what we get. I also want to keep an eye on RCT. So we got out of RCT because it lost the 10 EMA. But it did find support at the volume weighted average price. And now the current 5-minute candle, which just closed, is a doji candle with a higher low and closed at 2. This current candle is also at 2 and really hasn't decided whether it wants to make a higher high or a lower low. So I don't want to jump in quite yet because I feel like this is still a moment of indecision where I haven't really gauged whether or not we're going to start trending up and maintain the higher low candle pattern, or whether we're going to trend back down into the volume weighted average price at $1.90. Prior bar high is 201. We can now have a current bar high of 201 as well, with a higher low. What I could do, because I could enter here and give it to prior bar low, which goes into 196. So I would stop out at 195. And that wouldn't be breaching my rules. It would be above the volume weighted average price as well as above the 10 EMA. But both the current candles, the one that just closed and the one that we're in, are doji candles and candles of indecision and ones that I really can't read all that well. So I will have to have a tight stop, which is what I'm going to exactly do. We're going to go ahead and do just that, and we'll see if we can get anything possibly to the high side. So I will layer my orders in case we do get a price spike up. And if you saw what this one did at 11.15, you'd understand why I was putting the profit takers there, because it price spiked up without really anybody seeing. SSKN, I'm going to flatten out. It is coming back down into the volume weighted average price. It has a red candle that breached VWAP ended up closing below, but this current candle has a lower high, and it's also red. That isn't the move. I'm out. We'll focus on whether or not RCT wants to trend up and hold above 2. Otherwise, we'll give back a little bit on this, Joe.
All right, good look. So our friend here, sorry, let me see if I can find your name, Burak Ugar. Yeah, let's take a look here. I'm curious to when you bought them. I pulled up the options chain just now, so you're only about $13 down on the per contract, which is essentially nothing. You pay that in fees with the options. Now, my question is, when did you buy them? I guess that's irrelevant now, considering you told me your average price and how much they're down. The at the money IV is relatively high as you get close in the closer expiration, so a couple weeks out. But you do have some time. They're not done until the end of the year. I mean, you have some definitive levels, right? So this is going to be a key support area here. I think I would keep an eye out on this just in case you do head there. And then look for some more indecision prints in that realm, just in case you don't get that bounce that you're looking for. We're on an inside day currently, but anything south of that, a hammer candle, anything that says, hey, we're ready to turn the price around, then I think you'll be okay. Obviously, keep your risk measures in place and everything along those lines. And also just be cautious when you are buying names after downgrades, whatever it may be, earnings reports, is that you're going to pay an increase in premium just in implied volatility alone, and you can just lose. The contract can appreciate in your favor, but you can just lose money because of the volatility decay, and that's just not a good time. You're not going to have fun doing that, and you're going to be like, why am I even trading these things? So yeah, there's that. We're short some TSLL, small size, indecision print on the 5-minute. Our high is going to be, our out is going to be approximately 10-12 cents, and then we're going to look for this next support level around 1960 or anything around south of 1965 as Apple is starting to take a nosedive to the downside. Now, why was I looking at the short here on Tesla? It's this specific indecision print right here. You have that grind above the volume weighted average price. You have the hammer candle at the lows. The volume may not be supporting it, but I do like it how, considering we are north of it, and the primary outside of the 5-minute print, the drive has been to the southeast. So we'll be patient, wait for that to come into play, and once those support levels are snapped, then I think we can take that additional step to the downside. Starting to get a little pop in it right now, and we're just going to keep a tight risk on this trade, because if the market's going to continue to squeeze and grind higher, we don't want to be standing in front of it. So VWAP is going to be the ultimate target, I believe, on this one, if we can even start heading in that specific direction. But I like the fact that Apple is starting to sell a little bit here as well too. Did we take a look at what Meta has been up to on the intraday session? Yeah, it's really weak as well. So keep an eye out on Microsoft and Meta, considering they are weak. And then we'll also take a look at advanced micro devices, because I did see some interesting options activity on this. Is you're going to look for the call wall as well too there. So yeah, AMD, not too bad. We have Microsoft below VWAP, and we have Apple below the volume weighted average price as well too.
All right, guys, continuing to watch. RCT did pop up into 205. And that doesn't look like a good candle. So here's what I'm seeing. You made higher lows, higher lows. You have a higher low on this candle, certainly. But that doesn't look good to me. Where the body is essentially flat, and you have an upper wick that rejects at 5s, and now you have a current red candle, and if that makes a newer low, that ain't the setup. So if this current bar maintains the higher low, I'll hold the position. If it loses it, I'm out. It's really that simple. NUAI as well, I feel this is luring in buyers because it keeps holding up at that 230 area, which also happens to be the 10 EMA. But when you look at it a little further, the lower highs is unbroken. The trend of lower highs is unbroken. So clearly, the sellers are in control at the local area highs, and that isn't the move. FO is coming back. So this is what I started my trading on today. I took a profit, and then it ended up stopping me out below VWAP. It ended up holding a previous area of technical support. I'm talking about 37 on a closing basis. And now it's trending back above both the 10 and the volume weighted average price, and it just reclaimed 40. It's now up to 435. but the spread on this is as wide as 50. I typically see it as 30 pennies, give or take. You're okay with that, execute on it, but follow trend. So that's what I'm looking at from respect to that. CURX, I'm happy I didn't punch into this. I had the wrong bias. My bias was that dollar was going to give way. And that bias was based upon the higher lows and the flat top, basically at 101. The longs lost and the shorts won. It just lost $1 and that's down into 93. 92.5 is the volume weighted average price. It loses that, it loses its spot on the side chart. So I'll continue to watch that, and now I have to punch out of RCT as that just made a newer low. So we will give back about 4 pennies per share on RCT. There's nothing that I like setting up at the moment, so I'm not going to get into any positions, but I'll continue to watch FOFO as that one does start trending back. And although I'm 0 for 1 on it, if it sets up in the right way, it will lure me back into a trade. And here comes that $41 area. We were just talking about 40, but as you can see, the spread is now 80 pennies. 40 on the bid and 80 on the ask. That isn't going to cut it for me. So I'm going to clear that one. Last but not least, DVLT seems to be holding up at the 20 exponential. It's still putting in lower highs, and I don't think it's quite ready for me to jump into this. $1.30 was the prior area of resistance. Previous resistance, then support, that lost, and it gave way, and now it's rejecting $1.30. So unless it gets back and holds above the $1.30, it's of no interest to me. Scanning the top screen for more new small cap gappers. If there are any that I don't know about, tag me, but they will have to be doing volume, otherwise it won't really fit my criteria, Joey.
All right, right on, 5-minute hammer. Okay, so yeah, Gore, 5-minute hammer at, I'll just show you here. Oh, I got this pain on my side again. This is where I went long there, Gorev. Take a look at that on the 1 minute as well too. So there it is, right? So we had the volume supporting it. We have that hammer candle, and that's where I went long earlier this morning. And then, yeah, Angry Wife, I hope that works out for you. I hope the Tesla long works out for you, considering you probably have significantly more size on than I do. So, yeah, let's take a look at the NVDL trade. So this is what happened right off that hammer candle. A little bit late to the dance, but we wait for the pullback, and we were fortunate enough to catch that move up there. But we took 2 Ls before that, right? We started 0 for 2, but then that's when it's really important to keep your risk measures in place. Okay, we got the short on IBIT. That's not what I lost on. Was TSLL was actually my initial loss there. You take that first hammer candle on the 1 minute low, and then sure enough, you look for the move back towards the volume weighted average price. Once it started to fill the majority of the wick to the downside, then I just got out of that trade. And then we took another attempt on SoFi to see what SoFi was up to. Same thing, a little bit late to the dance on this one. 1 minute time frame, extremely important when you're looking for the detail and precision entry in some of these names. So that's what we got going on. We took an L, and then I'm like, all right, patience. Let's not overthink this. Let's not get too worried. And then you hop in and you hit a 2-to-1 on that one. So yeah, not too bad of a look. Tesla's starting to come back in. If it can crack this support level right there at 69s, then we might be able to head right into 62s, and then that's when I'll start to piece them out, because you might get that bounce. But as for Intel there, Gorb, I like that you're long here as well. Nice hammer candle, consistent higher lows. That's something positive. As long as that continues to stay intact, then I think you'll be okay. And you're opening up at the top end of the range, so if volume decides that it wants to step in, then I think you're going to be pretty good. But with that being said, you're looking for a breakout on a name. Let's go through our time frames and see, hey, is probability in our favor? Considering you have that big time move here, you pull back, and then you're continuing its northeast trajectory. I think it looks pretty good considering where we're trading at right now. That candle could close potentially at the high. Now I'm going to start to trim a little bit here on TSLL. As I mentioned, we have punched through that support level. Let's get back to that trade. So I like that on Intel. If the volume steps in, Gorev, please and thank you, let me know. TSLL. And here we go. We're starting to piece a little bit out. We take some off. Boom. You get that move. Nice engulfing print. Punch through the support 1968. We'll take another little piece off right here. Nothing substantial to see what we got. And we want to continuously lock in our profits. Essentially got the same fill. So if it comes back to my break even right now, I'm going to hop out, Sri.
Okay. DFLI.
Oh, there goes the intc.
Looking at something. Okay, thank you, Alex, for DFLI. It is south of $1. substantially south of $1, but it is not looking bad in terms of trend. Trading very much near the highs, trying to take 44 pennies, high of days 55.79. I mean, it stair steps up. I don't expect any rocket ship price action from this one. It's up a respectable 42.5%. It's also done 118 million shares, but you know, it's also $0.50. But you know, the pickings are slim right now, as most of the small caps that I had on my side chart are all losing trend, which is fine. So we'll keep our eye on the ones that are not, and this one certainly is not. We're getting close to area highs, and just based upon how this one's traded, at least today, when it makes intraday highs, it pulls back. You got the first pullback, obviously, right at 4 a.m. when it made that 45 penny high, dropped back down into yesterday's close. It did it again at 7:10 and 7:15, made a 49 penny high, dropped back down into 42. Did it again at the open, 9:30, pops up into 55 penny area high, drops back down into 47. What I take from this is just what I've drawn right there. It's an upward channel, with the crests and the troughs being really few and far between. So your ideal entry on DFLI will be also few and far between, your entry and your exits. I would wait, personally, for a 50 to 49 penny entry on this one, and then I would take the majority of the profits once this one made an intraday high. And if that's 58, 57, whatever it is. Because as I've mentioned, it has a propensity to retrace back down once it's made new area highs. Now, it may or may not do that on the subsequent time. I'm just going by what's done on the day. So this is not a bad one. And there's plenty of ones that we can take off here from the side chart. First and foremost, I think I'm going to take off CRNX. So we'll put in DFLI. Despite the fact that it doesn't meet all my criteria of being above $1, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway. Thank you for that, Alex, and I'll keep my eye on that. I'm also monitoring SSKN. I wouldn't mind getting back into this one. Profitable trade on it, flattened out as it lost trend, and I'm happy that I did because I would have been substantially out of the money if I had it. But it reclaimed VWAP, and now what I observe is it's finding resistance generally at 45, and it's also putting in lower highs and lower lows. In addition to that, it's also below the 10 EMA on the 5, which it was not when it was trending up. Now, it's dropped below it, and it's using it as resistance. The 10 EMA on the 5 right now is at 245. If it can get back above 245, which I've already gauged as an area resistance, this one will interest me. It's up 23%. It's not a bad look, but it will have to clear local area resistance for me to get back in.
Hold on, Sharif, sorry to interrupt you there, brother. There goes INTC there, 35.36. Breakout volume really starting to pick up. Neil mentioned it as well too. So yeah, good look. I thought that the long was going to come into play, so not too bad there. Sorry, continue.
So SSKN will be the one that I keep my eye on for. Other than that, dvlt also seems to be losing trend. It seems to be coming in to, pardon me, the 20 EMA, which is around 127. The final area for this one to not lose its spot on the side chart is 123. That's a volume weighted average price. I'm hesitant to want to base anything off VWAP in a strict sense, because what happened was over here, and this wasn't during the first hour. This was after 10:30. It started trending below VWAP, and it in fact wicked below it. So placing a stop at or below 123 where VWAP is probably doesn't work. What I want to see is if we hold higher lows. So currently, if you draw a trend line from an area low to a subsequent area low, and then we don't know if this area over here at 128 is an area low or not, but the 125 area seems good. If we find support at the 125 and we hold trend with higher lows, I could be persuaded to get in before I see higher highs. What I would ideally have waited for is a break and a hold above the $1.30. It showed me already, basically since 11:35, now going on almost half an hour, that a $1.30 has been resistance. We were talking about that $1.30 area up here as support. Well, it's flipped. So I'd have to wait for either a 125 touch and a hold of the higher lows and or a move and a hold above a $1.30. That's on dvlt. That would interest me. Otherwise, I've got nothing else other than obviously DFLI, which I've mentioned. My ideal entry on this one are towards the lower trend line, Joe. So that's my look.
All right, cool. So yeah, AMZN, yeah, you're going to allow those to expire in January. 5K premium, not too bad. Take it. Yeah, I mean, to each their own strategy. I would just collect as much premium on that. I love the range. Let's actually kind of just show what you got going on. I know you said 500. We'll pull this up. You said 500 calls. Let's see. Get back to your name. You said the 500 calls and the 350 puts. Yeah, Adira, as for my Tesla short, I got a little move to the downside and then I got stopped out break even. It didn't break. Yeah, so we might get it back in, considering you can see on the 1 minute that we are still continuously making lower highs. There's the lunch bell. Now, as for Tesla, let's pull up the daily and let's kind of just, I like AMZN's Condor right here. I'm a big Condor fan, to be honest, just because I think they're just a legitimate trade. Okay, this is looking really attractive. And then 350. Yeah, you know what? AMZN by January, I like that. So essentially, for guys who don't know what a Condor is, essentially what it is, it's a range-bound trade. So you're selling premium on both ends of the chain. You're going to be selling some calls and you're going to be buying some puts. And what that allows you to do is say, hey, we don't believe that price is going to go above 500, and we don't believe that price is going to go below 350. And that's going to allow you to construct a net credit. And what happens is, as long as the underlying asset stays within this $150 range, AMZN gets to keep all that money by January. And that's the beauty of the Condor setup. I really loved writing Condors. It's something that I was doing quite often and swayed from it, especially after the reason why I did kind of, again, I had some, it wasn't a Condor, it was puts. No, actually, sorry, I had some short calls on the TQs. I told you guys were here, and Donald Trump decided to X out or retruth the fact that, hey, we're going to put a 90-day pause, and it just blew those calls right out of the water, and I didn't have the right stop loss set, and I took a substantially bigger loss than what I was looking for. And for me personally, I just started focusing on buying contracts. But there's the beauty in the writings is like just the range bound setups, what you can do leading into earnings as well too. So yeah, AMZN has that strategy. He's got that Condor, $150 range by the end of the year, and he gets to keep all of that money that he's collected. So yeah, and there goes Tesla through that support level. Nice little breakdown. Charlie, I know you were talking about shorting the Qs, and I liked it as well. You had that kind of turtle shell type price action as you run into the volume weighted average price on multiple occasions, and then you slowly start to curl over and punch through some key support levels. And next thing you know, you're starting to take an additional leg lower. Keep an eye out on this here. Let's get this over. We do have consistent higher lows. So if this trend line snaps and you have that 5-minute print opening up south of that on the back end of the trend, then maybe you head towards the low of the day. And I think that's where we're kind of heading right now. As you can see, it's starting to be breached. So yeah, and there goes, oh, Tesla, no. That's why you take the multiple attempts, especially after you have the lower highs there. Oops, what do I got going on? So yeah, we had our trend line. It snapped it, and that's why I was like, you know what? Let me get out my remaining bit just in case it does want to squeeze a little bit higher. So you had the 1-minute boom, continuous to the downside, lower highs. And then eventually you put in this hammer. I wasn't paying attention. So that's a nice indecision print right there. Boom, and you run right into the volume weighted average price. So yeah, we'll go over what we've traded here. This was a trade number 2 on TSLL. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to participate to primary target, which was the volume weighted average price. Attempt 1, we go 0 for 1. And then also as for SoFi, we go 0 for 1 as well for those who are just tuning in. And we took a loss, but then NVDL and some couple other scalps is what put us on the map today, Sharif.
AGH is breaking out, guys. It is still a little bit light on volume. It hasn't hit even 500,000 shares yet, but that's the bad news. The good news is the volume just started coming in at 1140. And I don't even mean that much. That 5-minute candle did about, here we go. Now it's breaking out. It's still a little bit spready. Let's watch out for 3. Let's see if 3 holds, coming back down now into 303. Let's try that. We're gonna give this one a try. 294. We'll continue to watch. The current bar low is 287. So if you're basing it on current bar low, it's 287. Prior bar low takes you to 280. It still hasn't cleared 3 by a substantial distance to say, you know, we can use this as an area support. Showing 01s with an 09 high right now. Volume weighted average price at 80, but so is the 10 EMA. They are overlapping at this level. So I'm just gonna put some prints towards near the area high. I don't wanna be dollar cost averaging too aggressively on a name that has not proven itself to me on the day, especially having only done 517,000 shares. But the level off which I would pick this up on a retracement, if I was getting in that way, which I'm not, is 280. And that's specifically because both the 10 EMA and the volume weighted average price are at that level. And typically you don't even see them overlap. Usually the 10 EMA usually is ahead, substantially ahead of the volume weighted average price. That isn't the case here. So continue to watch. It's showing 7s. It's got 9s as a high. I'd like to see this price spike up if we can into the mid-teens. If we do, let's keep an eye on this for a possible candidate. Take a pause for a second, send you to Happening Now with Adara and Neil's lesson of the day.
One thing that we have happening now actually is some news. We have a U.S. official, I'm not seeing who, but apparently they're saying that India trade discussions are going well. They do want India, though, to be tackling concerns about market access, the trade deficit, and their purchasing of Russian oil. Let's take a look here at this market. Here's the Nasdaq compared to, I would say, pretty more directional and also a little bit more volatile market yesterday. Today, we're really compressed, trading within a fairly tight range. Let's talk about intc, which is not necessarily trading in a range, actually trying to break out here. Intel's had a couple different catalysts on watch. One of maybe the most notable ones here to remember for Intel and also for companies like Ford as well. We have a big crackdown, A, on a lot of different tariffs yesterday, Trump tariffing a couple different industries, and B, we've got this report from the Wall Street Journal suggesting that the Trump administration is looking to further curb these dependence on foreign-made semiconductors specifically by doing kind of a one-to-one import rule and a U.S. production rule. So that's going to benefit companies that already have bases in the U.S. like Intel. Also, the other big catalyst this week for Intel is Lip-Bu Tan, CEO of the company, reportedly calling up CEOs to ask them, hey, can you invest in our business? Do you want to have a partnership with us? Apple was one of those businesses that was reported initially on Wednesday afternoon, but TSM, one of those businesses as well. Tesla on watch, TSLA. This one still hovering around that 430 level, getting price target increases from both Wedbush and Deutsche Bank. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to stay tuned. We have Neil and his lesson of the day. So without further ado, take it away, Neil.
Thanks, Adara. And whether you're continuing an upward trend or you're seeing all of these V-shaped recoveries and wanting to buy the dip, you got to be careful what you wish for. Now, obviously, when we have moves like, heck, the open today, many different stocks, or like open door yesterday would be a good example as well, where you get this liquidity grab and then you have a huge continuation, and then you're just long for the rest of the day. The impetus is to want to try to catch some dips and catch some bids. But you got to know when to strike, but especially when to give up. Because for every time that you get, a failure candle at the open where you're making fresh lows, you're underneath any overnight or pre-market lows, and then you trend up, sometimes it never actually recovers VWAP. And I'm going to make a point about this with Intel in a second. But the first thing is, once you decide, okay, it's made a bottom, this is where I'm taking my stand, be careful about adjusting to that stand. Like, I'm perfectly willing to take a dip buy, and I'll try to zoom in now because you don't need to see yesterday. Try to take a dip buy, but then after that, when I'm working off this level, kind of wanting a little better price when it holds here on the way back, a little better price, because it's still grinding down, right? Like, there's no reason I need to still be buying in the high 70s if I can get the if I can get the mid or the low or even like the high 60s in there, just save yourself a bunch. It's not breaking out. It's not holding above VWAP, and be willing to get out of the trade when the getting is good. And then it has to show you something distinct after. Because truth be told, if it's going to trend up and you're going to get that bottom shape recovery, it's not like you only have to have that long. Like you could have long here. You could be long on a dip. We were long most of this, most of the day on multiple reentries yesterday. So you don't have to only lever in at the bottom. But if it doesn't hold your line in the sand, be willing to get out. And then the example I'll use of how you can sort of stick with it, sometimes it does work. Now, Intel was not a complete flush or anything along the lines, but it was a gap. It tried to fill in the gap into the prior high, did not, and then it just started going into dip buy mode. And once it did, it held the low, couldn't break out, held the low, tried to break out again, and then higher lows all the way through. The key being, if you decide, okay, well, this is the level at the open that I'm taking my shot at, fair enough. Be willing to take your shot, maybe even be willing to reload. But if it just keeps on trending down over and over and over again, you could find yourself in a situation where, yeah, you do need it to recover big if you're still in it. But you could just be bleeding slowly, death by 1,000 cuts. And if it finally does turn, maybe you're not alive to be able to catch the turn. So now all of a sudden on open door, I can still like the notion of a V shape. I can wait for it to do something a little more distinct. It's put a bottom and a higher low, and now I can try another break of trend. This is an hour later. I'm always willing to miss the trade to make the trade. No problem with having your line in the sand, and no problem with trying to catch a dip buy, get a good price early in the day. But those early dip buys can lead to trends down. And you can win going long a stock that is trending down, absolutely. But you're making it a lot harder on yourself than you need to by continuing to fight it. Like take some time, wait for something that sets up. The ones that work, like in Intel, are just going to give you they're going to give you the goods. I mean, I could pull up. We were trading silver today. Here, I'll just do this and show you guys the black chart. There's another example. Like this dipped at the open, dipped into the open, into prior highs, into the volume weighted average price. You don't need to have, did you need to have the bottom to get into silver? I didn't get into silver until it was breaking out here. So what? Who cares? You don't have to have the low of the day to get into an uptrend. But if you try to fight it when it's in the downtrend, you're just making things a lot harder on yourself. It doesn't preclude you from taking other longs. I will probably try long again in open door, and it looks like it might be trying to set this one up right here on a trend break. But it doesn't mean I have to have every single shot at it when it's showing me a downward trend. So yes, getting that first dip buy, especially in this type of a market, right in the first 10 to 15 minutes can be absolute gold. But if your area that you bought the dip is not the right one, you've got to get out. If it's going to work, most of the time you'll have other opportunities to get in or to add. It doesn't always have to be on the way down, as profitable as that can be sometimes. So be careful, especially in that opening range. Allow the sellers to stop selling, show signs of strength before you get in, and try not fighting the stock everywhere on the way to the downside. There's plenty of opportunities. There's always something trending. I promise you that. There's always something which is trending or usually fitting someone's trading style. So if you're willing to find it and be patient enough and willing to miss the trade so that you can make the trade, then I think you'll be a little more consistently profitable. There's your lesson of the day. Best of luck, everybody. And heck, maybe open door does break this trend here. We'll see.
Thanks for that, Neil. All right, DFLI is breaking out, guys. It is at the top end of the range like we were discussing. So what I'm waiting for now, I'm not going to short up here, but I'm waiting for a possible move back into about 50 to 51 pennies on this one. It's done it before. It seems to be characteristic specifically to this name. When we make these area highs, clear the prior area high, which was around 56 pennies, we do retrace. I'm not going to guess where the area high is. I'm just going to allow it to manifest. And if it's going to maintain the same trend it had been putting in before, I'll wait to about the low 50s before getting into DFLI. It's a good name, and it's got a great trend. and it's up a respectable amount, 51%, and it's doing volume. Now, if you haven't traded these sub $1 names before, you're trading with 4 decimal places, which means there are more levels to post sell orders at, and goes on the same token buy orders as well. So it becomes a thicker trade south of $1. Now you may notice it may take longer to move a lot more than it typically would for a $1 trade. So I'm going to keep my eye on this one. Again, I'm not punching in at the highs on DFLI. I'm very interested in picking up towards the bottom end of the range. It looks like it's setting up well. SSKN as well is taking out prior area trend, and this might be an invitation to get back in. We were talking about 45 being a local area resistance, at least, when we lost trend. And now it looks like we may be taking both that 45 penny area and the 10 EMA. If that is the case, it's another one that I'm interested in. So we'll keep tabs on that. Last but not least, AGH. I'm involved in this one. I tried to get a print in the mid-90s. It did come into 96s. I had my order at 94s. We didn't print, but we've got a 3-candle setup right now. Each successive candle has lower highs. The break trend, the 1205 candle has a high of 307. So if this current candle, which has a high of 304, can print anything above 307, we'll have broken trend. Otherwise, I'm looking for more at a bit lower of an area. So that's what I'm looking at now on AGH. SSKN, I'm going to get back into here, Joey.
All right, cool. I'm looking at SoundHound here. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you. We'll take a gander at what we got going on the 5-minute, why I like it in particular. So there it is, right? So 1583 seems to be somewhat of a support level. We're starting to crack that, so you can see that ascent to the downside. And then now on the 5-minute time frame, we're breaching that trend. Gonna sit on the back side of it. And then we had this 5-minute hammer candle, obviously with some volume. So I was just running through some of the scans. I don't want to chase it all the way up here, right? As you head in towards some key resistance zones, that's going to be right at that $16 level. So you want to post up around 1585 if you're lucky enough to get that. So I'm just going through some names for some potential setups. SoundHound is definitely starting to catch my eye. And now as for Veil, why is it doing that? Stop it. Yeah, as for Veil, do I have to lock this? Okay, let's take a look at. All right, sick stuff. Anyways, we'll continue with that. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, SoundHound definitely on catching my eye. We like this. It's continuing to grind higher, 1585. We're not going to probably get that price right now, so we want to look for that next level, and that's going to be right around 1590. If you guys see anything in particular that you're looking at, please let me know. Is my chart going to decide to work now? Nope, it's not. So I can't go through any of the names currently. So I'll just continuously look and go over what we have here. INTC starting to come back in. Shreve was talking about Ford earlier, and I started to take a look. Starting to take an aggressive pullback. On the daily, you can see it punch through some key resistance zones, which I think is extremely positive. Let's actually go to a longer time frame, and hopefully this works for us and doesn't freeze up and embarrass us. And nice. Okay, beautiful stuff. So, I mean, 25.89 is your previous high, where we're currently trading at is 53% lower. But hey, you're punching through zones, the volume's there. Now you just want to see it be sustained. You don't want to see too deep of a pullback and give up the majority of this move, but 40% of a pullback, not too horrible. And I mentioned that the daily breaching through some of those key zones as well too. Now, as for INTC, you had that breakout volume started to kick in. And then when we have that pullback, let's take a look at this here. On the pullback, volume starts to stair step down. And then now it's starting to kind of turn price back around and head towards this prior pre-market high, where it seems that there's going to be some clear resistance on that front. Now, as for the Nasdaq, Charlie, I know you were looking to short this one. It's choppy here today, a lot of overlapping candles, but one thing to note is that you have the consistent higher lows. You hold that trend line, then sure enough, look for it to bounce off it once again. VWAP is starting to get significantly closer and it's curling down, and you have the resistance up here, so price compression. Watch out for it to reject that specific level one more time. Other than that, I'm going to continuously sit on my hands. We had some pretty good trades. We're green on the day, and we want to hold that on for Friday. Hopefully, Bitcoin can bounce off of the lows, but I don't necessarily think it's going to. You're out 30% at INTC. Gorev, nice work there. Charlie Tap into the Q short, as you mentioned before, and it's 15.97 right now. Are you referring to Soundhound? Let's get back to that name just in case it did pull aggressively. Oh, no, yeah, it's breaking. So that 5-minute candle, really nice look. Holding of the support levels, great look. Now heading into resistance.
Okay. Back. All right. I'm keeping my eye on RCT. It got into the volume weighted average price and held on a 3-candle basis right around 190, and now is stair-stepping up with 4 green candles in a row and has retaken $2. It's also broken the downtrend that we were putting basically since my out. So I'd like to keep my eye on this one, pardon me, for continuation. I'm just unsure if we can get above this candle wick. Recall, I got back into it. Once it reclaimed 2, it ended up moving back into 5s. I didn't take any profits, and that was the bull trap that got everybody long before it dropped back down into 190. So I'd just like to pack my patience a little bit more on RCT. If that means getting a worse price, I'm willing to accept that. But I'd like confirmation. All right, Beta Pro by Global X Canada has just launched 6 new triple leveraged ETFs, offering 3 times bull and 3 times bear exposure to the S&P TSX 60, semiconductors, and U.S. Treasuries. Even better, they're offering a special fee rebate, dropping management fees to just 65 basis points until December 31st, 2025. These ETFs also employ currency hedging to seek to neutralize U.S. dollar exposure, providing performance that may more accurately reflect the underlying U.S. equity indices. If you're a tactical, sophisticated trader looking to amplify your performance, check out betapro.ca/3x daily to learn more. Continuing to watch RCT as it made another candle to make a new high. That is now 4 in a row with this current candle high 205. We're still not above that 205 bull trap that I was speaking about before. So I wouldn't mind waiting until that level came in. In addition, DFLI, well, it rejected exactly where we said it was going to reject. And now it's coming back down into the 10 EMA, which is not the area I want to buy it at. 51 to 50 pennies is the area where I'm going to put my resting entry. 51 pennies is the volume weighted average price. Give or take 50 pennies is where the lower trend line meets. Both the lower and upper trend lines have been respected on an almost strict basis today. And I say almost because there were outlying candles during the open, the implied balance open, that did breach momentarily, but as you can see, it regained trend once that topping tail was followed by a red candle. So here we go. We may lose 54 pennies here, where the 10 EMA is. If we do, then I'm certainly going to be looking for 51 to 52. I may use both levels to enter. We'll have to wait and see exactly what kind of price action we're getting in and around that area. So that's all I've got at the moment. I've got SSNK and AGH, both indeterminate at the moment. We'll see how they do. Joe.
All right, cool. Oh, I get a nice big stretch there in my back. I need Obi around here, man. This guy's always asking me for back cracks, and I need one as well too. Charlie. Like, this is what we were talking about. There goes Soundhound though, by the way, starting to break up higher. Bitcoin's starting to head a little bit to the north side. Yeah, and there it goes, Charlie, brother. I mean, obviously things happen, but that wedge was starting to form. We were talking about this not too long ago. There goes Soundhound. I think that was a really good opportunity to get long there. Just take it, just take it, just take it. Took a haircut. Yeah, that's fine, man. I mean, just get out of it. I think if the market does continuously grind like it is right now, you will find the potential to short it. I mean, there was some opportunities here throughout the day, but we have this indecision print right there, and then we just had this wedge that was forming that we were talking about. Let's get this a little bit tighter. Come on, you can do it there. And then now it's breaking up, and then also keep an eye on the volume profile as well. It's starting to accelerate as you're punching through resistance, and that's always just a sign for me, hey, we might continue on that path. There goes Tesla. Hangry wife, let's go. I'm glad. I'm happy for you. I'm glad that you're starting to print up on this one here. What happened there? You're still long Tesla there, Katina man? Right on, as Matthew McConaughey would like to say. $8 on that one, so not too bad of a look. And then you have also the likes of NVDA starting to bounce off of that 175.84 level. That's pretty cool there. And then look at the old IBIT breakout. So hopefully we can start that recovery. I am going to write some calls, but we're going to wait for it to squeeze potentially throughout the day. And then we want to write at the peak potentially. So with that, again, those are some of the names. Let's see if our scanner wants to work for us now, and we'll go through a couple of the tickers to see if we can find any forms of indecision. And no, it does not for some reason, which I don't know what's going on with this thing there anyways. All right, so yeah, we can't do that. Options chain is still going to work for us. We can take a look at some of the TQ's numbers just to see if we got anything interesting cooking up on that, and can explain why we're potentially breaking up and not continuously selling off. So what we have here, 12,900 current open contracts at that 103 strike price. Can that act as a potential magnet on today's session? I don't know. We obviously want to look at the Qs, not the TQs, see if there's anything kind of in correlation with that up to let's go actually to the Qs and change this chart as well. 598. All right, so 598 is putting a little bit of volume in here, guys. Let's gander, and then 598, 51,400 right there, and then 13,500. So this is where a lot of the volume stepping in. Contracts being closed right there on that 597 contract right there, 81,800, and then you can see the substantial volume through these strikes, and then the dwindling open interest. So quite a bit of volume put on through that concentration through 5 strike prices. Exactly, you got about over 500,000, close to probably 750,000 contracts closed. So yeah, market's starting to grind higher. Hangry wife, that's looking pretty good there. And yeah, that's what I got going on. Tesla, new high, IBIT. I wish I could go through my scan for you guys and pick some more. It's putting in a new high, a new 5-minute high there. 430, yeah, 430 there, Katina, man, breaking through some key pivots. I know that high of the day is around 435 roughly, if you want to get exact, 434.60. So yeah, I think on this trajectory, we might head to there, and there goes the Nasdaq, there goes the SPY, big time breakouts.
Halted is INDP to the high side. It's halted at 495, having halted at 1221.53. It is 1224.59. So the earliest this will open is 1226.53. I don't see a catalyst. It is a therapeutics company, clinical stage biotech. We know that there is a headline for that today, not a positive one. We'll keep tabs on this one, up 50.9 currently. The top, the theoretical auction price showing 510, having halted at 495. So it's already 15 pennies higher than where we halted. That is the top, the theoretical auction price. We'll keep tabs on that.
All right, guys, did you know that instead of risking your own money, you can now trade with someone else's capital? No more fear of losing. No more moving your stop loss too soon. And you actually get enough capital to make it worth your time. So you can aim for big profits, not just a couple of $100 a month. This is the revolution called limited risk trading, and it's powered by Trade the Pool. This is how it works. Join Trade the Pool, hit the profit goal, keep 70% of the profits. Visit tradethepool.com or scan the QR code now for 10% off right
Still waiting
there.
for INDP to open. We'll see if it's going to be a 5-minute halt. It's now 12:26:25, so we should be opening up at 53. The tap now showing 5:15. It's up 50.9%, having halted at 495. So we're just right about there. A few more seconds, we should be opening up. The tap now showing 530. So it's slated to open substantially higher. Back down into 25 it goes. Still waiting for the open. It's currently 52. Now it should open. So it will be a 10-minute halt. So this one will be a 10-minute halt, if not longer. Tap dropping to 516 as a result of, the market discovering it's going to be a 10-minute halt. We'll keep tabs on this one. Now, the earliest this one will open is 12:31:53. Tap showing 520. The only one that I've got involved in right now, I just got stopped out of AGH as it did lose the volume weighted average price. I'm in on SSKN for a hold of the volume weighted average price and a move back into the $0.50. 58 pennies is the area high. I've layered my orders to take advantage of possible price spikes. It's defended the volume weighted average price on a closing basis on every candle that's taken place on the day, with 2 outlying candles that breached it on a wick basis at 11:35 and 11:40. I've tried to account for those wicks by placing my stops below them, knowing that, and by doing so, I take on more risk. Keeping an eye as well on DLFI as it came into the area high. I'm still waiting for this to come down into around 51 pennies to 50. The volume weighted average price is a little bit higher now. 51 1/3, almost 52. We are topping out from what I observe up here at 55.5 and now putting in a few red candles. My bias is to pick it up at the lower end of the trend line, as I've mentioned, which is currently still around 50 pennies. I will have multiple areas that I look to pick this up at if it does lose that volume weighted average price at around 51 and change. Keeping my eye on that, but here we go. It doesn't look like it wants to make it back down. And now we have another green candle to make a new high, breaking trend at 55.5 where we had topped out and put a few red candles. And now it's breaking out. Not into area highs, but it certainly has changed trend. I certainly had a bias that this one would continue to play the range between the upper and lower trend line. So I'm not going to punch in here just because it's breaking trend. In fact, it looks like it's luring buyers in, or shorts are seeing what I'm seeing, and they're getting short here because there's a lot of chop and churn at this level, an area where you don't necessarily expect some chop and churn. So that's what I'm keeping my eye on right now. DFLI, I'd like to get in, but I'd like to get in at a better price. Back to SSKN, waiting for this one to either break trend or fill me. First orders at 48, second order at 52. Keep tabs on that. INDP still halted to the upside. 523 now is the tap. Currently, it's 12:30:15. The earliest this will open is 12:31:53. So we're about a minute and a half away, give or take, from INDP opening if it's going to be a 10-minute halt. So that's what I'm going to continue to wait for. INDP opening, whether SSKN can reclaim the $0.50, and whether DFLI can come into that lower trend line where I can pick it up at, Joe.
All right, cool. Yeah, a little FOMO here on SoundHound as it's just continuously grinding higher. Talked about that support level right at 51.80s, 1581. And yeah, so we missed that opportunity. There was a couple chances for us to get in, and then you go. What happens here? You get the hammer candle volume supporting it. You get that move higher, pullback, holds that specific 1584 level, puts another indecision print, and then now you grind all the way up 40 cents to the volume weighted average price. Yeah, I mean BTC Haven, obviously not like you got to manage things right. We say this around here all the time: is that pigs get slaughtered. Lock things off. I think those are when you're having your best days, your best swing trades, is that when you're just not being greedy and like more, I want more, and you lock things in, you reset yourself, you take the profits. You've made your good money. You're up 354%. You can leave one for a runner if you'd like. Put a trailing stop in. It's like, okay, I'm up 354%. I'm willing to lose half of that value on that one contract. And then if it comes anything south of that, I'm just going to lock it in and I'll be more than satisfied. And I think that's really, really important. It happened to me on some of these calls that I'm working on right now. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm up a couple $100. But for me, I'm like, what is that? What is that around here? A couple $100. It does nothing. But then when the trade turns in the red, you're like, oh, I wish I had that couple $100. And obviously hindsight 2020, but just going back from the history and the little bit of experience that I have in January be year 5 is just lock that stuff in. Take the money and run, especially in markets like this in September. Take it as much as you can and then reset yourself and look to pounce again and find those next potential trades, all right? So yeah, I can't really run through my scanner here right now. We'll try one more time to see what's going on. I don't know why it keeps popping up like that and not going through the charts. It's connected here, we're linked. Doesn't, yeah, all right, well anyways, that sucks. Well, I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll just reset something. There goes Tesla, another new 5-minute high. ETHA, significantly better than what Bitcoin's up to on the session. You can see that you punched through that the opening drive high. That was a while ago. You're through the pre-market highs as well. And then now you established a new high of the day about 10 minutes ago. So yeah, not too bad. Gap fill, hopefully, potentially at some point. I think that would be the ideal dream. And then we can start to rock and roll. We're 22% on Ethereum, the actual underlying asset. We're 22% off of that just under $5,000 previous high, which is not good. That's bear territory, right? So yeah, not a good look. And then we're down 10% on Bitcoin as well off of the previous high. And I think that we can run into the 90s. Hopefully we turn around before then, but that's what it's looking like for me. And we talked about the lengthy consolidations. It's like lag consolidation for multiple months. You only go on a couple week run and then it cools off again. So I think that's the narrative. Things really started to change when I noticed that it went optionable as well via IBIT. And then, yeah, volatility really starts to decay and it doesn't have those massive moves and you can hedge more accordingly instead of having to go through the futures. You can sell premium, you can do risk reversals and buying the buying the opposite contract, selling one, buying the other. So yeah, there's a lot of potential things that can be going on behind the screens. I have no idea what it is, and if I could decipher it, then I would absolutely try to take advantage of it. So, yep, there it comes back into VWAP. Ether holding up strong. Ford still holding that $12 level. Shreve mentioned that not too long ago as well. So there it is. Hopefully it doesn't break through that 12 level, and then you want to look for that next step, and that would be probably the volume weighted average price. If not, you can probably get a hold there, and then maybe a retest of the previous high. So yeah, that's what I got going on there, Shreve.
All right, INDP, we got in quickly at 45s. We flattened out at 81s. Into the halt. It's up 77% now. The top is showing $6. It halted at 12.3220. It is currently 12.35 on the dot. The earliest this will open is 12.3720. I should advise you that the previous halt time was 10 minutes as opposed to 5. Also, this one still hasn't done 1 million shares in volume. 846,000 and a half as a result of the multiple halts and the lengthy halts. Prior to that, we had not been really doing much in the way of volume. As you can see, it was very sparsely traded both on the 5 and the 1. I perceive $5 to be an interesting area if we do lose trend as a result of having halted right before 5, and now we have an unfilled intraday gap between 5.25 and just south of 5 into 495. The current theoretical auction price is showing 6, halt level 581, 19 pennies higher. Adira.
You guys know here, RUM on watch, Rumble. You might have seen this headline go across the screen, but I'm seeing reports that SoftBank and ARK are in talks to invest in a major Tether funding round. Why is this significant for Rumble? Well, RUM has invested about $775 million into Tether. That's why it's significant. They got invested in by Tether. So Rumble's been invested in by Tether. Tether's invested in RUM. Now, Tether itself, again, an investor in RUM, is going to be getting an investment from SoftBank and ARK, again, in talks to invest in Tether. So interesting look there for RUM. Back to you.
601. Tennis for life. When you're looking at my screen, you'll always see the theoretical auction price right there, right where I'm doing the circle. It says tap. The good thing about YouTube is you can zoom. If you're on mobile, it's now 6:03. So anytime you're going to be on my screen and you see a halt, look up here on the time and sales. We're under H and V. It says TAP. You'll always see it there. If you have your own platform, it may or may not show you the tap. On mine, it does. On my IB, it shows me on the order entry screen. It's open. INDP is open and is going to halt down at 540. Currently, if we continue in this way, false halt into 540, back up into 80s and 60s. Current day high is 621. We did lose 6 pretty quickly. We're holding the gap between 5.25 and 495. It still hasn't filled. Current candle of indecision, south of 6, above the $0.50, with the current bar low at 540. Breaching 550, here we go. Trying to reclaim 621 high. Keep your eye on 621. There's a seller at 6 though. Now he's gone. It is a 620 current bar high. 620 current bar high, high of day 621. There it is, 625 now is the day high. We're gonna halt at 23, false halt. Back down, that re-triggers the timer. So we'll have a different level. We lose 6 again though. So no trend quite yet. You're not taking out area highs decisively enough. 623 area high, not 25. Back into 20, there's a seller at 20. We're not defending 6 strictly enough to get in anywhere and to use 6 as your backdrop. 640 area high now. Yeah, this one is a little too volatile. Previous halt level, 581. That already got breached though. It's the 540 area that got defended. Here we are moving back into 6. We're losing 6 again. Into that 81 area where we had the halt. Back above 6. This is too much for me. I don't like the trend. It feels like it likely will go. It may stop you out though on the way because it's very wicky. So I'll continue to watch this. If it sets up in a more advantageous way, I don't mind jumping in, but in this kind of fashion that it's going at right now is not going to be for me. Joe.
Yeah, all right, good look. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with the old platform ski. It's gone bonkers here. Half of it's white. I can't select some things. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to bore you with some of the names that I have currently up on my chart. We can go through some other as well, too. We'll scroll some through things. Soundhound was that trade. I love what Soundhound was up to. Mike P, trust me, brother. I know what that was like. That was me after Chicago. That was how I was feeling after Chicago. So I know exactly what situation you're in. There goes AMD bouncing off of those lows. But if we take a look at it from a daily, you're just stuck within this consolidation right now. So the longer it holds these levels, maybe you get one more of a liquidity grab and then you can continue that move to the top side. So that's advanced micro devices. As for our friend Robinhood, bouncing off of those lows, some good stuff. I want to take a look at it on the lower time frames to get a clear picture to see if we can get some bounces or any indecision that says, yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. There is some things, but it's not loving the overall risk profile. I'm gonna get SoundHound up here instead of some of the NVDA and everything along those lines. Tesla still grinding, a slow grind on the day. The SPY, not too bad of a look either. Watch out for the lower high on this as we're starting to slow down. So the trend line, basic trend line like this, pop, and then we'll have that over there like that. So if it breaks that through the backside, boom, maybe you can go and get a test of this previous. We're right around those pre-market highs as well too. So there's the SPY. And now as for IBIT, not doing much back at VWAP. Ethereum, same thing as well. Not quite at VWAP though, still hovering. So let me know what you guys are looking at. Plug, yeah, let's take a look at Plug for sure. Put a couple of tickers, guys, and also don't forget to vote. Put that $ in there. Matter of fact, I'll do it right now. And I'm gonna go SoundHound. I'm going SoundHound there.
Joe, just gotta cover this.
Yeah, go ahead.
669 halt level on INDP. 70 halt level, showing parameter at halt. We're long here at 14s. Position board's not working. Halt level showing up at 69 or 70 on INDP. There it is, false halt through the level. I'm posting up now at 705. 77's high of day. Continuing to watching. 76 high of day, showing 77s again. Continuing to watch, 77 showing up again as a selling point. It's not a halt level. There's a seller at 77, and we can't shake them. 76 is showing up now. There goes 77s. It's 80s now. It's 85. It's 86. It's 89. Flat. Good trade. INDP up 110%, showing halt level now 89. 88's now showing up as the halt. Here we go. We need 10 seconds at this level. 110% in green. INDP on the NQ. We'll see exactly where the halts. Halt level now 688, tap showing 7. Sorry to interrupt, Joe.
No worries. Whatever, you got a breakout there, obviously show it. Because I got nothing. I don't know what's going on here, Sharif, with the old platform ski. You know why it would keep bringing this up instead of having it linked with the scanner and the chart? Have you ever had that before?
Yeah. How did you get to that?
I don't know. It just stopped doing that. So I had scanner, right? We're linked, and then I do that, and it just pops that up instead of changing the actual chart.
I see.
Yeah. So I don't want to mess around with it here, but there we go. If you guys want some fundamentals, we can go over some fundamentals right here. Highs and everything, obviously being a little bit of sarcastic. PE, not too bad there on SoundHound, but I can only bring up some. Oh, sorry, that's Veil. I don't even know what that is. But yeah, guys, continue to put in those names. Yeah, Plug Power is starting to break up. There you go, cracking that downtrend. You can see this here, pop. Now we're on the backside of it. Nice move up from $2.32 to $2.45. Stack up the shares on that one. Q's grinding higher. Charlie, don't short it just yet. And if there's anything specifically that you guys want us to look at, or me specifically, I will do so. Goro is the first one. Let's pull it up. This is more or less Sharif's world. Liquidity issues big time here. So from an intraday standpoint, I don't know how much we're going to be looking at it. We can always zoom in. Yeah, and there's no liquidity. We can take a look at it. Oh, Gold Resource Corp. Okay, not too bad. From a daily, see what's going on there. Yeah, gold is absolutely cash money right now. Boom, you're putting in a new high. Let's see if we can get this on a weekly to see where we stand off of the lows, 11 cents all the way up there. So from November of 24, boom, 500%. So we got Sharif.
14 years, 0 hacks, 0 excuses. BTCC.com delivers when others don't. Trade Bitcoin up to 500x, even Tesla, gold, and Forex. With smart copy trading, you don't just watch the pros, you trade like them. Regulated in the USA, Canada, and Europe, trusted by 6.8 million traders. Trader TV Live exclusive. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description box for a 15% deposit bonus. BTCC.com, where pros trade, and now so can you.
All right, yeah, there we go. Thank you for that very much, Sharif. What was I going to look at? So yeah, Apple. Someone's thinking Apple. Who said Adrian? Apple short. Ooh, I don't know about that just yet. Let's do some basic TA. Keep it simplistic. KISS is like, as we like to say, pop. And then we got this move all the way up into here. Boom. And then also we can do one from this previous high on yesterday to see what we have. Anything correlated with that? No, we don't want to just continuously draw lines for no specific reason. So let's stay with what we have right now. Price really starting to form that wedge compression pattern. Wave forward. I mean, where we're currently sitting at right now, Adrian, I'm going to go with a yes. Why? Because you're running into some resistance zones and you might catch the lower end of the range, all right? So be patient and you have your risk profile defined. You crack 256, you're out of the trade. It might break up and it might continue to climb higher. Adara, what do you got for us?
I have some commentary here from the White House on these pharmaceutical tariffs. So as you can see here, this is the XLV, this is the healthcare sector ETF. We are seeing the White House say that, quote, the latest pharmaceutical tariffs don't apply to countries with negotiated trade deals. So again, Donald Trump yesterday announced a 100% tariff on pharmaceutical products, but there was already a caveat with that announcement that if you are either manufacturing already in the US or you're working on that manufacturing, you will not be subject to the tariff. It looks like if you've already negotiated a trade deal, you won't face a tariff either. Back to you.
Adara, yeah, and Beam, Palantir short, be patient, right? So you're starting to form a wedge. Price is really starting to compress. You're printing the consistent higher lows, but then you have that resistance zone right at that 177.50 level. All right, so keep in mind that, yeah, you can look for that breakdown, but you have your risk profile also defined, anything north of that, and then also keep an eye on the volume profile just in case that it wants to break up and you see it really start to kick in, the volume and the velocity starts to increase, and then sure enough, that can tell you, hey, my thesis is wrong, let's get out. But right now, both those names, Apple and Palantir, are range trading.
INDP halted still. 688, the tap showing 747. It is up 110%. The halt time, 12:43.09. It is currently 12:48.17. So this one will be another 10-minute halt like this one over here. So we got a 10-minute followed by a 5, and now this one will be another 10-minute halt. Be on the lookout for INDP, and if you're involved in the name, it's incumbent upon you to be looking at the tap, the theoretical auction price, while we are halted. It is only on the NQ, the Nasdaq names, where you'll be able to see the theoretical auction price. You will not see it for New York stocks nor MX stocks. I just got into DFLI. As I was saying earlier, I have a bias that this one is ranging. Into the lower and upper trend lines. And it's been quite consistent in that regard. So I did pick it up at 52. I will stop out if it loses 49 because the loss of 49 is the breach of the lower trend line. Ideally, this one trends up back and takes out 60 or around 59. The current high of day is 58.5. It's got a couple of bottoming tail candles, both of which breached VWAP. Both the current price action of the current candle and as well as the prior candle did retrace above the volume weighted average price. So I'm still in sskn with a bias that this holds generally the volume weighted average price for a possible retest of the high of the day at 58. So 2 positions at the moment, looking for DFLI to trend back up. It took a long time for DFLI to break down, but that wasn't something that I wasn't expecting. It did that here as well. It did that on every successive crest. When it made a new high, it has a tendency to pull back. Takes a little bit longer to get back up than it does to get back down, but both of them, both the up and the down moves, were not quick. For example, the down move on DFLI started at 1210 And if the prior candle is going to be the bottom, it ended at 1245. So I don't expect a quick move, and I certainly don't expect a quick move during the midday on this one. So we'll continue to watch that. Back to INDP, as this one is still halted, 1243.09. It is now 1251.02. So we'll continue to wait for this one to open. The tap, still above 7, showing 728 at the moment. We'll have to see where this one opens up when it reopens. My first profit taker on DFLI is 53, and then the subsequent one will be at 55s. I'll layer them with a bias that we make another high of day above 58.5. So what I mean to say is my move is not going to be to extract the entire position south of 58. If I have a bias that we're going to clear the high of the day, as we have done on both the 2 prior occasions, 3 now actually, then I should stick around and see if we test it for a 4th. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm keeping my eye on, and I'll be keeping my eye on INDP as well.
Cool. Nice look there, Sharif. All right, so we're back in business here. We got this thing working, AAL. In the meantime, I also found something cool that I didn't really know about either. So we'll pull up these AI summaries that we got. This one doesn't have any, but it hallucinates a little bit as well, because I believe they use Gemini or something along those lines. This year-over-year change in the U.S. consumer price. But yeah, this is a nice little tool that we found here. Beta, bring you your beta. Oops, where'd that go? I seen something that was interesting to me. So yeah, there it goes. So Q2 25 revenue exceeded 1 billion. See, I don't know how true some of this stuff is. You have to read through it, because last time I checked, I was using TradingView, and I was reading some stuff on Bitcoin. And it was like just saying numbers that weren't there, hit it like 135,000 and some weird stuff. So I don't know how much I trust that. You got to fact check yourself without any form of questioning. So yeah, let's get back in, run through some scanners here and see what we got going on from Amazon. We'll get involved with the 5-minute time frame in a moment. So one thing that I like is that you have this continuous sell-off. This isn't even off the previous high, but just this peak right here, 238. Come on, you can do it. There we go, 238. You got a 10% pullback, and then this was the previous peak right there. So you're closer to about 12%, 11% from the previous high, and I think that's going to be a solid discount here in Amazon, considering it's like, yeah, okay, I think that some of the tariff news is still holding it down, and in the likes of what we've seen with Google, once that gets sorted out with China, you can almost, I'm not going to say anticipate, but look for that weight to be lifted off its shoulders. And then who knows with these names, like the e-commerce side, and then we obviously know with AWS coming in with double-digit growth, which it's phenomenal, but there's still something holding it down, and we got to be patient and wait for it to be lifted. But at these lows, slowly start to allocate. I know Chase the Pack was logged some Amazon calls. You got that bounce that you were looking for, and I'm happy you did so. So yeah, there it is on AMZN. Now we'll take a look at Mara. We had the breakout, right? So as of September, the middle of September, you get that breakout, and then look what happens momentarily as shortly after that, as crypto starts to sell off again, you head right back into the middle of the range. And that's why when Sharif and I talk about this, the Bitcoin miners are just a tough space. It costs a lot of money, and from a technical standpoint, they haven't really done too much over time. Yeah, you have that initial appreciation, but for the span of years, even through the halving cycles, it hasn't got the capital appreciation and the price appreciation and the likes of the actual compared to the underlying asset itself. Now, moving forward, CoreWeave, 85 bones, there it is. Nice bounce off of that one, $84, now trading up 50% from that specific level. Still not putting in any new highs. Watch for that 150 level to be broken. Other than that, I'm going to say that the downtrend is still fully intact. I want to get involved in something, but I just don't know what yet. There is a little bit of a short signal here on the TQ, so shout out to my boy Charlie. But it's not a hammer or anything along those lines, so we want to keep an eye out for that. And if the market's going to continuously squeeze, we don't want to be standing in front of a freight train. Tesla's grinding, NVDA continuously, it's grinding. Actually, no, I'm going to do it. enough talk of this. We're going to get involved small size on some TQ to see if we can get a bounce back to the lower end of the range. We have a pretty tight risk profile. We'll give it about 30-40 cents max there. So let's get involved, and then we'll bring that up to see if we can start to break down. Let's get it up on our charts over here. So yeah, I've traded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names on the day. Oops. And yeah, how many? We only have two. Yeah, 2 of them are losers, and then we have the winners in the iBit short and the NVDL long, and now we're short some TQs that are slightly in the money. We're going to get the lower end of the range, so that's going to give us about 20 cents or so, a little bit more than that, and then we'll look to start to piece it out. If it breaks through that 80 level, we're giving it about 20 cents to the top side, so that 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and then we start to take some off. VWAP is going to be the ultimate dream, and that's where we're going to look to hit that 3-to-1, 4-to-1, especially if we do get south of VWAP there, Shreve.
INDP high of day 845, trading south of 8. Current candle lower high, but also higher low. Current candle low 750. New high of day 857. Price spike now on the current candle makes this candle with a higher high and a higher low with an 857 high. This one feels like it may be destined for $10. We'll have to wait and see. Current candle low, as I mentioned, 750. We're losing 8. We're losing 750 now. This one feels like it's going to halt down. A $7 area being tested. Prior area halt is 682. We're looking to test the lows of this candle. So now this current candle has a higher high, but it feels like it may make a lower low as well, in which case it will be a bearish engulfing candle. Packing the patience over here, continuing to watch as the price action develops. This is not the entry for me. It's either going to be near off the previous area halt level at 88, or it's going to have to be another test of $8 and a possible test of that high of day. Again, 857 high of day, trading much closer to the low of this candle. And here we go. Here's the halt level. Now we're in the halt parameter, 710. 710, we need this to hold for 10 seconds, false halt into 725. That means we're going to lose 710 now. What's the new level? No. The timer doesn't restart. 710 halt parameter showing up again. 9 on the bid, 10 on the ask. We need to hold this for 10 seconds before we get a gray out. It feels like it might gray out this time, and it's grayed out. We are halted down $7.10. The top showing 10 pennies lower than where we're currently halted. I'm going to keep tabs on this one clearly, as this is the best moving one in the market at the moment. So 2 things here with this halt down. 1, sure, it's a halt down and it's the first one. But that's the bad news. The good news is, number 1, we're holding above 7. Number 2, prior bar low is actually 703, current bar low is 710. So we not only have still, even though we're halted down, a higher high, but we also have a higher low. Number 3, we haven't filled the prior area gap. The prior area gap is from 682 to prior bar low at 705. So that area is still a gap. So I'd like to see what the tap ends up being a lot closer to when we come to open. At earliest, we'll open 103.47. We halted at 12:58.47. So if this is going to be a 5-minute halt, and most of them have been, for the exception of one of the halts, which was 10, we will open at 103.47. So we'll keep tabs on that, and we'll tell you about this in the meantime.
All right, guys. Each year, 3.8 million concussions are reported in the U.S., yet there is still no FDA-approved treatment. NISE-listed Orgenex is changing that with its first-in-class, intranasal drug designed for rapid brain access. With the concussion treatment market projected to reach $8.9 billion by 2027, Orgenex is uniquely positioned to lead the way. Learn more, schedule a meeting today. checkout or Genix. Anything else that you want to cover?
Waiting just for the tap to show up. 677 now, the tap. We're halted at 710. We'll wait for that one to open up. Again, earliest it'll be is 103 and change. Keeping an eye on SSKN. I've been holding this one at the volume weighted average price. I want to say the majority of the show, right around 11:35 or so, we got in. It's almost 1 o'clock. It has been rejecting the high 40s, and by high 40s, the highest I would say is 48. I've been watching a 47 seller step in many times, despite nothing really being posted on the gateway at all at 47. So we'll have to see how long this trend holds, and I've been trying to gauge whether or not generally we're putting in higher lows, and we are. If you look at each successive trough, not each successive candle. Here's what I mean. Area low at 1142, another area low at 1233, and another area low at 1253, each one a little bit higher than its predecessor. So we'll see if the trend continues here on SSKN. It's a good hold of VWAP, which tells me that the buyers are stepping in at that level, but equally as important are the sellers in front of 50, which have prevented this one from ascending. So we'll keep tabs on that. The other trade that I've got on is DFLI. A bias with this one that we continue to channel range from the lower end of the trend line to the higher. Got a couple of profit takers on this one, but we're not getting continuation in the same way that we did before. Now, I did have a bias that this was going to be a bit of a longer trend up, given that what it had done prior. As we saw, the descents happened a lot quicker than the ascents, whether it was at 7:15, 9:50, or 12 o'clock. So I don't expect this one to rocket or move in the same fashion on the way up as it did on the way down. Pause for a second, send it to Adara.
Yeah, I just want to let you guys know here, Fed's Bowman making some comments right now. She is more or less saying that she's, I think, thinking that the Fed's a little bit behind the curve and ready for a cut. She's saying that where is the specific quote I'm looking for? Here we go. The Fed should consider shifting its focus from overweighting the latest data points to a proactive and forward-looking approach. So Fed's Bowman thinking the Fed's too focused on the most recent data points and not looking forward and pushing higher. She said that also recent data, including these benchmark payrolls of revision, shows that the Fed is at serious risk of already being behind the curve. Back to you.
Thanks for that there, guys. Make sure you guys get to vote as well, too. We're going to start the news, obviously, here momentarily. It's around that 1 o'clock. Interesting stuff, but make sure you get those dollar signs and then vote. So you know what you guys want to look at during the rundown. So, yeah, there it is, guys. Nothing substantial. We were already out of that TQ short, 20 cents, sticking to the stop loss here today. It was literally, to take it out of Sharif's book, that was the ultimate community college try. I just wanted to see if it would work out, and it didn't, so we hopped out immediately. One more thing here, Sharif, before we hop in there. Ebb and Flow Portfolio INTC January 16th, 2026. Call 40 call purchased in August. I have a more long-term horizon with this contract. Do you consider rolling, however, a decent amount today? What's your move on this spot? January 26th. Yeah, I mean, you still have a couple of months, the 40s. You bought those out of the money. So I think you understand what your objective is on that one. I mean, the more time, the better, right? If you feel that it's better for you to roll those over, then I think it's in your best interest to do so. If you have that gut feeling, just do it. Don't even second guess yourself. Don't question yourself, because you're going to pay the difference in the contract. You got to pay a couple $100 more or whatever it may be, $50, $60 more to roll it out a couple more months. I'm doing that all day, and I'm even thinking of doing that in my crypto contracts. But yeah, thank you for that there, Ebb and Flow Portfolio. Let's rock and roll.
INDP, guys, unhalted, trying to clear 7 at the moment. Prior candle did breach VWAP, but ended up closing below it. Prior candle high, 723. We're showing 714 now. I'd look for a clearing of prior candle high before I get in on this one, but we are holding a key technical level, at least in my methodology for trading these small cap gappers. The volume weighted average price is always an important level for me. So I'm going to continue to watch this one, but I'm unlikely to execute anything on it while we're doing the news as a result, obviously, of being highly volatile and requiring basically all my attention. So let's start right now. I'll continue to hold my DLFI and sskn, looking for continuation on both with stops in play on both. Just allow me a minute to set up. All right, so let's talk about the semiconductor tariffs that possibly could make their way onto the scene. So allow me a minute over here. I have to load up the other one. There we go. All right, good to go. So the Trump administration is weighing a new tariff plan targeting U.S. reliance on overseas semiconductor production. They're aiming to boost, obviously, their own domestic manufacturing as well as reshape the entire chip, supply chain for chips. Companies are at risk here of facing tariffs if they don't manufacture the same number of semiconductors in the United States that they're importing from overseas. So effectively, this creates a one-to-one domestic to import requirement, a plan that could drastically change how the U.S. tech firms source as well as produce these chips. More information we're waiting for, obviously, but you have risks for U.S. firms like Apple, Dell, as well as other PC makers that may face major compliance burdens, in both tracking the origin of the chip, where it's coming from, as well as balancing their U.S. versus foreign chips. It creates supply chain issues. Some predicted winners from this policy, if it sees the light, would be companies like Micron, Global Foundries, Taiwan Semi's U.S. operations. Specifically, we're talking about the Arizona fab. These could all benefit from leverage in negotiations and increased domestic demand. You also have some possible net losers if this policy sees the light. As I mentioned, Apple, NVIDIA, Dell, all could face higher costs as well as operational hurdles as a result of this policy. And the auto industry as well. We're seeing Ford have a fantastic day, but the auto industry is a major user of semiconductors, and they could also be hit with higher costs given their reliance on imports. So something that I definitely would be keeping my eye on, especially if you have exposure to any of these semiconductors. Adara, what did you make of this new trade policy here that we hear Donald Trump looking to implement?
I mean, my thing too is it's just a report for now, right? I would like more details. I would like to hear it from the horse's mouth, so they say, because I always have a hard time, you guys know I'm very much a see it to believe it type person. I want to know what context is going to be. And my thing too, and maybe I'm naive, please correct me in the chat if this is the case, I wonder how you actually track this. Do you know what I mean? How are you, they're getting X out of this country, they're putting in Y, they're making X number of chips here. I think that is, I'm really curious about how they're going to actually implement this rule, how they're going to track it, how they're going to ensure companies are following their policies. I feel kind of the same way to an extent about the next story we're going to talk about with the tariffs. But yeah, I mean, either way, I think this is something I really want to see how and if they end up rolling it out. Now, one thing too that I want to add is a lot of times we'll have these stories reported that do involve the Trump administration, and the Trump administration will initially deny them and then or say they're not going to comment on them, and then they do end up being more or less the case, right? So I wonder, that happened with the Kenvue situation, the whole 90-day tariff snafu, though admittedly some of that was misreporting. Regardless, the reason I bring this up is because I wonder, A, if this story is as close to how it's kind of coming across here, or B, if this, I guess, how far they are in these negotiations. Furthermore, I think Intel benefiting from it makes a lot of sense given their investment in Intel. So either way, I think it's a win-win for Intel. Intel certainly has needed those wins, so I'm going to give them the thumbs up there, and shout out to anyone who's long this name.
Joe, how do you look at this?
What was the question? I went to the washroom.
Semiconductor tariffs.
Tariffs. I mean, I think this is a big part of, obviously, with the talks here in regards of talks. TikTok deal being done. I think this is going to be the next big step, and if they come out positive with it, regardless if Donald Trump's, he's obviously going to take his 15% from AMD and NVDA, but a lot of that weight is still holding on. I think the market. Once that's sorted out, I think that the semis can continue to run. AMD has pulled off of its highs, and same with the likes of NVDA. So once that clears up, I'm sure there's going to be some room for these names to go to the top side.
More tariff news. Donald Trump looking at levying 100% tariffs on branded pharmaceuticals. So 100% tariffs on all branded and patented pharmaceutical products entering the U.S. effective October 1st. Branded and patented are operative words, as that by definition excludes generics. Exemptions apply to companies building drug manufacturing currently in the United States, including sites that are already under construction, even if they're not completed. President Trump argued tariffs will push these drug makers, such as Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, AbbVie, all to reshore production after a decades-long policy of offshoring these. The U.S. pharmaceutical imports as well have nearly tripled in the past decade, rising to about $213 billion worth of imports in 2024. We don't obviously yet have that figure for 2025. Drug makers often rely on global supply chains with different steps of production spread across multiple different countries, and this would obviously disrupt that flow. For their part, health experts warn that tariffs could lead to higher prescription drug prices, which is clearly something the administration is currently fighting against. And we saw the previous administration, to credit them as well, also look to fight back against that. For their part, pharma giants argue that tariffs will redirect their precious capital away from innovation in the U.S., as well as U.S. investments, as firms try to cushion the impact of these levies on their customers as well as themselves. J&J, by way of example, they've already booked about a $400 million tariff impact for all of 2025. They may have to recalculate that now, given the new figures. And President Donald Trump previously floated rates as high as 250%, saying that the 100% levies are only a start, with step-ups in those levies planned over the next 18 months. J&J recently pledged about $55 billion in U.S. investments, as well as many other pharmaceutical companies, all to kind of get ahead of these tariffs, Joseph, because they were already really telegraphed.
Yeah, I mean, here, I'm just trying to pull up XLV here, and just looking at the top holdings, obviously you have the likes of Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, United Health is in there as well, too. It's tough, right? You're drastically underperforming. Now you're going to get slapped with tariffs. Donald's been talking about this for some time, 100% now. I think he was talking 200%, 175%, whatever it was. But when you have a sector that's already been extremely damaged like this, and then now you're going to slap some tariffs on them, as Sharif mentioned, that, hey, it's going to make some of these companies have to recalculate the potential damage from these, then yeah, you're going to see some more downside in this sector. There is a double bottom here on XLV 127.65. That is a ways away. It's probably about 8 points or so to be exact. So yeah, it's been a really tough look, especially considering it's been one of the worst performing next to the energy sector, sectors in the overall market, Sharif.
What's your take on this, Adara?
My take on this is, as you said, this is super telegraphed. This should not be particularly surprising here with regards to pharmaceutical tariffs. But I think one thing too, I do think Eli Lilly, of any of these companies, AbbVie maybe as well, is poised to benefit. Now, why do I mention these companies, Lilly in particular? Because Eli Lilly has strategically, over the last, I think, week or so, every couple days they've announced some kind of new plant in the U.S., some kind of new initiative in the U.S. I think they said as of last week, they're going to be opening 5 new plants in the U.S. over the next 5 years. Like, Eli Lilly, I will say to David Ricks's credit, I think really, that's the CEO of the company, really understands how to respond to this administration and how to kind of get the tariffs on your side, so to speak, and in this case, avoid tariffs. Now, the other thing, too, that it's worth noting is David Ricks, CEO of Lilly, Alfred Bourla, CEO of Pfizer, and the CEO of Regeneron, they all A, met up with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago prior to the election, and B, they all had their tariff letters when they got the pharmaceutical tariff letters back in July. They were addressed to their first names. Everyone else was addressed to Mr. Whomever. So with that in mind, I think Lilly, Pfizer, and Regeneron might be in a better position than most, or at least they're kind of a better understanding of what Trump's looking for with regards to tariffs. So they might be able to navigate that situation better, making sure their policies match what the administration's looking for.
Costco reported after the bell yesterday, and they beat on both the top and bottom line, with EPS coming in at 587, beating the 580 expected by the street on revenue of 86.16 billion, also beating the 86.06 billion expected. Net income did rise to $2.61 billion, up from the prior year where they took home $2.53 billion. The top line growth as well was a healthy 8.1% increase on revenue to $275.24 billion. That's for the full year for their revenue growth. Same store sales as well, which means stores that have been open a year or longer also grew 6.4%, but that doesn't include gas, though growth has decelerated now for 2 straight quarters. Membership fees, a big margin product for Costco, jumped as well, 14% year over year, boosted both by fee hikes as well as more members joining. Memberships increased for the first time since 2017, which contributed to the growth, as well as they're seeing a younger demographic joining, people typically under 40, now accounting for nearly half of the new signups each year. So good luck. E-commerce sales, an area that they've been really trying to press, also jumped about 13.5% year over year in Q4, taking home a little bit less than $20 billion of their revenue print now coming from e-commerce. Digital sales as a whole now, not in just a quarter, but as a whole, now make up about 7% of Costco's overall net sales. And they're trying to innovate with new search features as well as faster employee checkout tools and a virtual waiting room. I personally was at my local Costco last weekend, and they now have individuals walking around with an iPad cashing you out. So you're able to get out a lot quicker and not have to wait in those very infamous Costco lineups. Merchandise and tariff strategy continues to evolve. About 1/3 of all U.S. sales come from imports. So 1/3 of U.S. products sold in the U.S. are imported. Costco's looking to offset some of those tariff costs that are expected by expanding their Kirkland private label alternative. So that's obviously a higher margin product for Costco. They can pass on savings that way. Costco also opened 27 new warehouses this year, with 3 of those being relocations, and they plan to open 35 more, Joseph, in the next fiscal year.
Yeah, that's some really good look, a good look there, Sharif. As to the tariff cost with the Kirkland, I remember on their previous report is that they're not looking to put all of the weight onto the consumer and obviously their customer bases. So what they essentially were doing is on food and certain other goods, they weren't changing the price, but in something like the luxury items in the exotic plants and everything along those lines is where you're going to start to see the tariff impact on some of those goods. So at the end of the day, I like what they're doing. You can see that obviously the customer subscriptions starting to grow, the revenue is increasing. That's something positive. And what Costco looks like from a technical standpoint, I like it at these lows. For me personally, I think this is one of the better staple names. Obviously, you have the likes of Walmart, and it's like 1A and 1B in my opinion with Costco and Walmart. So as we're at these lows, you get that aggressive sell-off on the earnings report. You drop 5% or whatever it may be, but you're heading into some key support levels. You're starting to see some buying pressure step in with the name, and you're also off, let's see, approximately 14% from those previous highs. The downtrend here is still fully intact. But again, Costco, a big-time staple. I think it'll be fine in the long run. And if you start buying some around here, don't go all in at once. I think you'll be able to do just fine.
What's your take, Adara?
Yeah, I think my take on Costco is the numbers were pretty solid. I like the e-commerce focus as well. And I think just in general, the fact that they seem to be getting a little bit more tech-savvy, for lack of a better term, with the e-commerce element. And as you mentioned, Sharif, I had no idea that people were walking around with tablets cashing out now, because that is one of, I think, the least appealing aspects of Costco. As someone who hasn't been in over 10 years, but I remember going as a kid, those lineups are really bad. So they're finding a way to kind of streamline the process. I actually think that's a good idea. As you can see here, this is their annual revenue going back to 1996, so almost 30 years ago. This is a steady uptrend. I think this report generally was pretty solid. Sometimes the market isn't quite sure how to react to things, and that 925 level is absolutely a level on the daily and weekly for Costco, so could just be a little bit of a technical shakeup. But either way, I think this report is solid, and I think there's a lot for Costco to look forward to.
Meta rolls out ad-free subscription in the UK, already having had rolled it out in Europe. So they're introducing that ad-free subscription option for both Facebook and Instagram. It's going to cost you $2.99 quid, basically $4 if you want it on the web, aka browser, or if you're going to use it on iOS or Android, it's going to run you $3.99. The expected launch coming in the next few weeks, mirroring, as I mentioned, the rollout in the EU earlier this year. UK's Data Protection Authority had already raised concerns with Meta's use of personal information for advertising purposes. As a result, the subscription option helps Meta align with the stricter privacy and data protection regulations. The paid tier will allow users ad-free browsing without their data being used for targeted advertising. And advertising obviously remains Meta's core revenue driver, with 98% of their revenue in 2024 having been made from digital ad sales. That was about $164.5 billion, Joseph.
Yeah, I like that you brought that out, Shreep. Before we get back into Meta, Adam James, HPN, Healing Pain Naturally. Happy Friday, Trader TV Live gang. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. No, you, my friend, you have a great weekend. I know you just got back from your hiatus in Miami. So yeah, thank you very much, my friend. Much appreciated. That will most definitely go towards everyone, maybe some beer funds. You never know, even though I'm not even really drinking. But yeah, Shreve, as you mentioned before, a lot of it comes from a lot of 98%, 97% of it of Meta's revenue comes from digital ad. I think that's extremely positive. Well, I mean, it's not positive, but it's a big amount of money. And when it's that concentrated, sometimes you can look at it in both ways. You can now start to pay and you don't want to see any ads, or you're just going to have to sit through it and allow yourself to watch those ads. For me personally, I don't care. I'm not scrolling enough in order to have to pay that amount. But if you make a living off of Instagram or whatever it may be, then that might be something you're interested into. And now as for Meta, from a technical standpoint, let's take a look at it from a daily to see what we have going on. I like this name, and I'm going to continuously like this name. All of the hyperscalers, any form of dip, you want to just slowly start to grab it. We didn't even quite get to that double top there at 797, and then now you're at that neckline, 744. Watch out. The buying pressure is starting to step in, but if it continues and you open up below that neckline, watch for some additional selling, and you want to look for that next level as well. That's going to be around 722.57. But everything that Meta's got going on, I wouldn't be overly worried. This is just another revenue stream. So personally, buy it on the dips, and that's just how I feel about all of the hyperscalers.
What's your take?
This anyway, mentioning this is another revenue stream. I'm not sure this is going to be another revenue stream. So I looked into this. I would love to hear from people from the EU in the chat as well. I was looking into this to see if this is actually a concern that users in the EU have about data privacy, or if this is the EU, who we know is a little bit hard on American companies, if this is just their regulatory fist coming down, right? So it is interesting. Apple, we know, just cracked down on the DMA. They said that they actually think the DMA hurts their users' experiences in the EU. So with that in mind, I have to wonder if this is coming more from like the actual regulatory bodies and less from the users, which again, I wouldn't have evidence either way, but I think is a point to keep in mind. Then I actually don't know how many of these subscriptions people are going to get. This doesn't strike me as a business decision on Meta's part because they're doing so well in ads. As Sharif highlighted, this strikes me as they are responding, I think, understandably, to the regulatory threat or concern. So yeah, I don't think you can really assess this as a business decision. I think you can assess this as it makes sense. They're trying to avoid more regulatory headwinds, but I don't know if this is like a choice they would have made otherwise.
Amazon settles FTC allegations with a $2.5 billion fine. The FTC had accused Amazon of duping customers into signing up for Prime with deceptive designs, what they're calling dark patterns, and making cancellations difficult. The settlement includes 2 tranches of money to be paid. $1.5 billion is going to be paid to the U.S. Treasury. The other is going to be $1 billion in restitution to customers. It marks the largest FTC fine ever levied. Now, for their part, Amazon must now add a simple cancel button to Prime, as well as provide clear disclosures about, one, the costs, the trial terms, and the renewal policies before taking the membership. Customers who unintentionally, I don't even know what that means, use Prime benefits during a 12-month period will get a $15 payment. To give you an idea of the scope of this, about 40 million US customers were affected by Amazon's alleged tactics. They have 200 million members worldwide. The history of this goes back to 2023, when the FTC first sued Amazon alleging intentional delays in cancellation flows. At the time, FTC Chair Lina Khan said Amazon, quote, knowingly harmed, close quote, millions of consumers by prioritizing revenue over transparency. That isn't the end of the matter, because a broader antitrust lawsuit against Amazon is still pending, which is targeting their marketplace practices, not the cancellation of Prime. So more contingent liabilities ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I find it interesting because people in the chat are saying, yeah, it's not that difficult to cancel the subscription. I don't think it is either. But again, I think it's just the FTC looking for a way to rake in some cash. A quick couple billion right here and there. We'll charge these guys considering they hold a nice amount of market share. But as for Amazon, we were talking about it earlier. E-commerce side, it's okay, yeah, whatever. Let's focus on AWS. And then obviously kind of in these streaming wars, when the likes of Netflix, Disney, and Amazon, it's going to be one of those bigger names as well too. So I never found it difficult. Again, it's irrelevant what I think or what experience I have, considering the FTC says otherwise, affecting multiple individuals. So there you go. Pay the fine, slap on the wrist, and they're going to go about their merry business. And then now you're still down 10% off the high. All right, as I mentioned before, Ichiro, thank you for the $20 super chat. Trader TV Live is the most inexpensive but valuable education. Greatly appreciate the free education. No, thank you, Ichiro. I know you said you had some contracts on some stuff, so continue to hold those, manage them correctly, and I'm glad that you've been winning on them for sure.
All right, Adara, what's your take on the Amazon story?
I mean, honestly, at this point, I think it's kind of done. Like, it's literally settled. Right now, I was going to say the one headwind they might have going forward with this is if their other case they have right now with antitrust is related to this at all. But given that it's not like they have to worry like, oh, we settled, we're going to seem like we're guilty of anything. They don't have to worry about that because the other case is immaterial or irrelevant to what's happening here. So yeah, I mean, I can't comment on whether or not Amazon's easy to cancel. I've never attempted to cancel it. I've only had it for a couple months. But either way, I mean, I think there's resolution here. This is done. On to the next trial for Amazon.
Boeing wins a major aircraft order from both Turkish Airlines as well as Norwegian. For their part, Turkish Airlines placed the largest ever Boeing wide-body order up to 75 787 Dreamliners. The breakdown is going to be as follows: 35 787-9s, 15 787-10s, and then an option for 25 more Dreamliners with no variant specification. Also announced plans to buy up to 150 737 MAX aircraft, potentially its largest Boeing single-aisle order ever. This order aligns with Turkish Airlines' 2033 vision to expand its fleet up to 800 aircraft, looking to be basically a world hub. Let's talk about the Norwegian expansion as well. Norwegian Air Shuttle, for their part, they ordered 30 Boeing 737-8s as it continues to grow its fleet across Europe. It builds on the earlier 2022 deal for 50 737s, now exercising the option that was given to them under that agreement for additional units. It's obviously a strategic shift for Boeing over here as they look to restore their credibility after the 737 MAX crisis, as well as the Alaska Airlines door plug blowout back in 2023. And it also highlights, Joseph, the growing demand for the wide-body aircraft and the narrow-body jets as well. with about 725 gross orders for Boeing year to date through August.
I find it so weird with this name streak because it's like almost like every other week we're seeing Boeing step in with a bunch of new orders and everything along those lines. And we know the backlog in this name is astronomical. They can't produce enough planes. But if that's the case, if they have all this demand, why isn't the stock performing significantly better? That's something that I can't wrap my head around. Obviously, there's margin issues as well, too. But it's like orders here, China, Turkish, like across the globe, companies are buying these planes. They can't produce them fast enough, but yet the stock isn't performing that well. You're 17% off of those previous all-time highs. And it doesn't, like, from a technical standpoint, yeah, you're bouncing off support, but it doesn't look like it's going to crack that anytime soon. It's going to take a while, and that's where I'm stuck with Boeing. They essentially run a monopoly on the commercial airspace, but they just can't seem to get it together for some reason.
Stood.
I want to say here one thing too, Joe and Sharif, but also I'm just going to say Joe because I know you just mentioned it. Boeing actually is getting a little bit more confidence from the FAA in particular, which I think is a great sign. Earlier today, the Federal Aviation Authority announced that Boeing is able to sign its own airworthiness certificates for certain 737 MAX and 787 Dreamliners. Boeing has not been able to sign any airworthiness certificates for these planes for 6 years since we had those two crashes in 2019. So this is actually a good sign for Boeing. Now, Joe and Sharif and audience, I do think that change is incremental, so it's not going to be overnight for Boeing, but this alone is being viewed as a massive sign in the right direction for Boeing. So I think regardless of these deliveries, you know, as you guys are saying, it's going to get deliveries. I think it's a good sign of confidence that, and I guess a good sign of the company as well being in the conversation, the way they're being utilized in these trade deals. But beyond that, the fact that their planes are being viewed as, or the company's being viewed as trustworthy enough, they're able to sign off on their own certificates again to some extent. That's a good sign, and I want to see that expanded. I want to see, you know, can we sign up on a couple more? Can we sign off on, you know, different types of models? I want to see that progression continue to happen for Boeing.
No, yeah, very good point there, Adair. I like that you can see that the deliveries are starting to pick up. It got really bad there in Q4 24, and they were just missing deliveries like it was no tomorrow. And now they're back at those 2022 levels, so not too bad. We'll take it.
YouTube and YouTube TV and NBC Universal carriage dispute. So YouTube may soon lose access to NBC Universal programming, including Sunday Night Football, The Voice, and other popular shows. The current contract between the two companies expires on the 30th of this month, raising the risk of a blackout. NBCU has never previously gone dark in U.S. history under a Comcast or GE ownership. Here's YouTube's position on the issue. They have around 10 million subs, as we know, and they argue that NBCU is demanding higher rates than its own Peacock streaming service, which would raise costs on subscribers. It's important to note at this point that YouTube TV made the exact same allegations about Fox, I believe about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and that ended up getting resolved. YouTube pledged to offer a $10 credit to customers if NBCU channels become unavailable for an extended period. They did not define what an extended period is. NBC's position is claiming that YouTube TV is seeking preferential treatment under unfair terms. They argue YouTube TV rejected, quote, the best rates in the market, close quote, to gain leverage over competitors, and NBCU has begun running warning messages to their users on YouTube TV about the potential loss of content. Joseph, we just saw this about a few weeks ago.
Right on, right on. Yeah, sorry, before we hop into that, we'll go boiled hot dogs. Yeah, I mean, there it is. You have that wedge forming that we're talking about, and the volume slowly starting to pick up. So just to get back into the markets for a second, I did take another attempt on the Q short. Didn't work. It's still grinding, so that's it. We just get out of it immediately. Boom, you get that move. I was looking for that 2 to 1, so I'm up here. I was risking only 10 cents. I was risking 20 cents on the previous one, so I needed 40 cents. 100 figured 60 was going to be my target. It comes against me. I get out immediately because I'm not going to stand in front of it. There's the volume starting to pick up in Palantir. Watch for that to open up on the top side of this resistance zone, and then maybe you can be on your merry way. All right. So just a quick peep at the overall market. I mean, YouTube TV with Alphabet is a beast, right? So these guys are starting to gain share, whether it be YouTube Shorts, everything along those lines. But NBC Universal carriage dispute, going to lose some of the Sunday night football games. They'll be able to get them TNT, whatever it may be. I think YouTube TV is taking kind of the shorts by storm. Personally, I love what they have going on there. And then obviously we're on YouTube as well. And a lot of these streamers, these kid streamers are hopping on there. So if they end up losing something, they're going to gain it in another aspect, whether it be another sports channel, different sports, or adding another streamer to get them on the platform. I think they'll be just fine at the end of the day.
What do you think about this, Sadara?
I honestly don't have too much to add on this, just because we had the similar story play out with Fox. I suspect we will get some kind of resolution in the blink of time, or the nick of time, or whatever phrase you want to use. I think this will probably likely end up getting resolved.
Okay, let's go on to the next topic. Tesla getting the nod today from Deutsche Bank. Multiple price target hikes ahead of the Q3 deliveries number that we're getting soon. Deutsche Bank, for their part, they raised the price target on Tesla from $345 up $100 to $435, while maintaining the same buy rating they had previously. The bank expects Q3 deliveries to come in at about 461,500, which would be flat year over year, but up 20% quarter over quarter. It would also be ahead of the street consensus estimate of 433,000 deliveries, again, for Q3. Key drivers being cited by Deutsche Bank as the reason for the increase: the launch of the Model Y L in China, which we know is a 3-row, 6-seater, longer-range Model Y available exclusively to the Chinese market, not North America. They also cite pre-buying in the U.S. market ahead of the cancellation of the EV incentive slated to end at the end of this month. That's a $7,500 incentive. With respect to growth in China, they're forecasting a 20% growth for Tesla in China and North America, but they are continuing to gauge European weakness from rising competition as well as branding issues tied to Elon Musk, obviously. Chinese registrations through September are now in the range of 141,000, which is pacing quite close to what Deutsche Bank had been estimating, which is 159. That's for the full month. We obviously haven't completed the full month yet. They're saying as well that they see Tesla hitting possibly 1.6 million in deliveries, but expect U.S. deliveries to drop off in Q4 as a result, obviously, of the cancellation of the $7,500 EV tax credit. They also cite Elon Musk's competition resolution and a push into robotaxis as well as humanoid robots as removing overhangs on the stock. They see Tesla positioning itself as a leader in embodied AI and could bring more long-term expansion. Some of the recent deals, Joseph, a letter of intent signed to deploy humanoid robots in a pharmacy client setting. Should be interesting to see that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I watched some videos on Optimus the other night as well, too. Found some interesting stuff, just saying, observing what's around it. The individual was like, hey, I would like to get a coffee, but I don't want to go buy one. And then Optimus was like, yeah, you can go get one from the kitchen in the office there. Do you want me to lead you the way? And that's where it kind of glitched. It took him a while. He had to step back. And then he's like, yes, lead me to the coffee in the kitchen. And then sure enough, he did. All right, I'm long Palantir for that breakout, but it looks like it's going to be a failed breakout. We'll hold on to this for a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, as for the price targets, I think a lot of it's coming into the fact that Elon's buying back his own stock. Apparently, they're going to outpace BYD on purchases for the month, I believe, of August. So September or August, whatever it may be. I found very interesting. Again, we want to wait for the delivery numbers to come out before we make any further assumption, which if it comes in better than expected, with the path that this stock has been on for the past couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if it adds a little bit more fuel to the fire.
What's your look on this, Adira?
Yeah, we've had a lot of analyst notes on Tesla, especially over the last week. They've all been pretty bullish. So I think like what it's worth noting now when you look at these, look at them all in tandem together. What are the commonalities we're seeing? And I think one of the biggest ones are people are very optimistic about China right now, which for a while was not the case for Tesla. We've got that Model Y L in China, which I really think jolted all of that interest in what Tesla's doing over in the country. We know that their sales and last week it was the third best week for them for China registration. So they're registering these cars in China. And that's even as we have a lot of really strong competition from other vehicle makers within the country. So I think that's a really good look for TSLA. The other thing I want to say too is this delivery guidance, and I think this is actually a double-edged sword. So if they actually beat all of these elevated Q3 delivery guides, I think Tesla could be set up in a great place, especially with Elon backing the stock. I suspect there will be a lot of bullish momentum. Now, on the flip side of things, regardless of the idea, oh, Tesla's not a car company, it's an AI company, whatever you want to call it, right now the main product that they deliver, other than the robo-taxis, which they're still kind of working on, and I think they have out, but they're still building. The point I'm trying to make is the cars are right now the biggest tangible product Tesla has. With that in mind, regardless of these forward estimates, if they miss on Q3 deliveries, especially with the expectations as high as they are, I think short term this could be a bit weaker. So that is my very long-winded analysis on TSLA. That being said, I mean, shout out to anyone who's long this name. That 435 price target, ironically, that we got from Deutsche Bank seems to be a little bit of a ceiling for it for now, but we'll see if it cracks above.
There. I think it's going to be really important. If they come in short on those deliveries, then we're probably going to see a little bit more downside on this name. The confidence was solely in the fact that Elon was starting to buy back stock, and it's like, all right, he's really intrigued about his pay package. He obviously wants to hit the milestones, $8 trillion in a span of 10 years. And we talked about this before. Shreves mentioned it. There's zero chance that you can do that with the company, just selling cars like he is right now. He's going to have to come in with higher margin products, and obviously the rollout of more autonomy vehicles, the robo-taxi and the Optimus bots. And you got to think about how far of a timeline that's going to be. How long is it going to take for the average consumer to start to really get involved in Optimus? But Adira, what do you got?
Sorry, I have Apple AI news. AAPL and Watch, the company reportedly has built is building a chat GPT-like app to help test their revamped Siri, but they don't plan on releasing it to the public. So Apple reportedly has a chat GPT-esque app to help with their revamped Siri. It's not going to be released to the public, but they're using it to help test their Siri update. So Apple apparently is actually building some AI specifically with regards to helping their AI Siri, but you're not going to see it publicly released.
Yeah, it's funny I think it's funny that they're building this chat GPT like app there, Adira, because it's like, why would I get the app that's like it instead of just going to buy going to get chat GPT and putting it on my phone? You can have the link here on your iPhone, your new iPhone right there. Bang, it's like this, ChatGPT, you want to have a conversation with it, then we're going to have it. So chat, how's your day going, blah, 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 whatever it may be, it's going to reply to me. They need to get Siri in order. I ask it the most basic questions, and it has the inability to do so. I go to ChatGPT, no problem, instantly. So yeah, hopefully they get it figured out. And Adira, we know what our good friend Danny Ives said about them getting it right in-house. He has a better chance of making the league than Apple getting it right. So
you know how I feel about his metaphors.
Honestly, I know.
I don't even care about those. People are always going on about his sports metaphors. Once he reused that Louvre metaphor twice, I was like, no, you have to come up with new material, Dan. You can't say the same quote twice because certain people will remember.
He loves it. He loves the sports analogies, and he always refers to like where we're sitting in just kind of this AI race or the LLM race, whatever you would like to call it. He's like, yeah, we're only in the fourth or third inning a couple years ago. He's like, yeah, we're just in the pregame and the preseason. So yeah, interesting stuff. They do need to get it right, but I don't think it's going to affect the price of the stock too bad. Adira, what do you got?
Yeah, what I have here is GeoOGL. So Google actually moving a little bit lower on this story. Now, I'm not 100% sure that this is correlated, but we know with Apple here, AAPL reportedly working on its own in-house AI or ChatGPT similar app to test their Siri. Google and Apple were reportedly going to work on this project together. At least Google was supposed to be helping Apple with AI at one point in time. So this could be why this is dropping a bit. But if there's any other news, I will let you know. Also, Fed's Bowman making commentary right now. She's saying that the Fed is, quote, within range on inflation, and that she prefers a gradual approach to rate changes. That could be in reference to comments that Stephen Myron has made, the new Fed member. Myron is advocating for 50 basis point rate cuts. Fed's Bowman saying that she prefers a more gradual approach. Back to you.
Yep, I'm looking at APLT, new small cap gapper, trying to clear and hold above the dollar. It's up 78%. It's at that critical area. The dollar, it also has a double top at 105, a bit of a range the last, I want to say, 20 minutes. 95 to the south side, 105 to the top side, so a 10-penny range with higher lows generally, starting at around that 136 time slot. We have been putting in higher lows on every successive area trough. I'd like to see if this one can clear the dollar by a substantial amount so that we could use the dollar as a backstop, much in the same way that we did earlier with AGH. But this one still hasn't cleared it by enough distance. The volume on it is good, 53 million shares. It should be doing that for given the price. Looking at the short float, or the float, excuse me, it's a larger float. It's 136 million share float, so it's a bit thicker. We still haven't even done half the float rotation on the day, so I'll keep my eye out on this one. Ideally, if you were to punch in here, you'd be looking for it to hold at 95 to 94, just given what it had done prior. And that 95 area is not new. It was not just at 130. It was also an area support once it was cleared at 112, and it did hold that level right into 121, after which it made that 105 high. So APLT in focus for me here, but it's going to have to either clear the dollar or come in back into that 95 penny area, hold support, in which case we can punch in and around 95 and give it very little in terms of space and in terms of risk, because if it loses 95, well then that isn't the move. Some levels to let you know about that. The 10 EMA on the 5 has been absolutely defended like a glove by APLT and has been, in fact, that way since 12/20, once it claimed the 10 EMA. This is the first area of real consolidation that the stock has put in since the breakout at around 12/15, which doesn't surprise me at all, given that we are getting into that $1 area. So if there was going to be a resistance for APLT, what better area to have it than at the dollar? It's up 77%. So the first area of support is that 10 EMA, and that's showing 96 1/3. The other area that I'd be looking at, obviously, is the 90 penny area for psychological support, but below that, it really is the volume weighted average price, and that only at right around 87.5. So I'll keep my eye out on this one, and if it sets up again, like we spoke about, right around 95 pennies, or if it clears the dollar by, and I don't have an exact quantum of how much it needs to clear the dollar by, then we'll get involved with this one. But we are still holding our trade on sskn, and I've been scalping out on area pops, 49s, 50s, next profit target for this one, 52s. It has been stair-stepping up in terms of higher lows, very, very, very like lightly and marginally. We're talking about higher lows in the range of a penny, sometimes half a penny. So that I'll keep my eye on. And then DLFI, I got stopped out as this one did lose the lower trend line. So I saw somebody in the chat telling me, hey, DLFI is in your range. Well, it isn't. It lost the range, and therefore I lost on it. So it had been quite respectful of that lower trend line, not to say anything about the upper trend line, and then it lost it. And now I anticipate if it starts trending back up that it will use that lower trend line as resistance as opposed to support. That's in and around, currently at around 52 1/3 to 53 pennies, really depending on when we reach that lower trend line. So still up 33%, and it is at the moment below VWAP, so not tradable under my system. there are any other small cap gappers that you guys have an eye on that we haven't mentioned on the day, just tag myself or Joe, and we'll have a look at it for you, Joe.
All right, good look. Yeah, we can take a look at what the VWAP is on CoreWeave for you here. As soon as I pull it up. Oops, I just typed in VWAP. CRWV. Yeah, there's that short guy. I tried the long there on Palantir, didn't work, hopped out. So I'm just taking paper cuts at this point. Again, that's probably going to be it for me. We'll hold on to the small green that we are leading into the weekend. And then also, again, we took 2 attempts on this one, didn't work out. And then sure enough, you're coming right into that 1080 level. So you get this squeeze out and continue what it is. So just doing stock market stuff. All right, yeah, let's go over. Oh yeah, I told you CoreWeave. Volume weighted average price is at $123.73. So we'll go from the top to the bottom here on our trades, and we'll take a look at the accuracy. So were we green on IBIT? Yeah, ever so slightly. So we'll go 1 for 1 there. Can I get it right? Yep. So there it is, a nice little short. Get out when you're supposed to, and then look, it's starting to grind higher inside day on Bitcoin. So that's going to be our one trade there. Now our second is going to be NVDL. This is going to be the bigger winner of the session off of those lows. Boom, boom, you take it off, right? Majority of it off at VWAP, leave a little bit of a runner, holds the consolidation lows, and then starts to grind a little bit higher, but we're not going to get too worried about that. We had small shares left. And then as for PLTR, we just had that one up. We take a loss on that. SoFi. Wow, I took a bigger loss than I expected on SoFi. Okay, no, I guess this was my first trade in the morning. Boom, take a loss on that one. And then also with TQs, again, we just went over that, so we won't do it again. And TSLL, you get 1 small win and 1 small loss. So at the end of the day, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 wrong names, 2 correct, and we're still positive. So we'll go 2 for 6 on the day, and you hold on to a positive, and that's why you keep those risk measures in place. The risk to reward is intact, and you try to allow those winners to be as large as possible. All right, so risking 5 cents, okay, you're going to be looking for 10 cents. That's going to allow you can be wrong twice and be right on the third one, and you're out break even. So you're not essentially you are not down on the day, and that's some things that you want to look out for. Also, put it in the chat, guys. I'm curious to what everybody else's day, how everyone else's Friday is going. Put it red or green in the chat. I'm going to do mine right now. Let's search for the emoji and see how everyone else's Friday. Regardless of you are red, guess what? Monday morning we'll be back bright and early, 8:30 to start things off. Market opens at 4 a.m. And even if you would like, you can grind some blue ocean in the evening. Yeah, okay, red, lots of red. We got some more greens. Let's go Ramen, Amriri, Muscan. We got red. Kip is green. That's good. Ichiro's green. We like that one. KL Lover. We love that one. He's green. Green 44K, but lost it all, YB. What kind of nonsense is that? On a Friday, you don't want to do that. And then we have a couple more. We'll go through some other names. 2.7% green, says Carter. And then Buffalo Soldier is red on the day there, Sharif.
All right, watching APLT still, guys, as it trades in and around that dollar. I'm interested in, as I mentioned, picking it up off 95 if it is to make its way down there, but I have to have a contingency plan if the 95 penny area isn't triggered. We're still putting in what I see here to be higher lows on every successive 5-minute candle, but we're also putting in lower highs. So I haven't seen enough to say I think we're doing a compression pattern. But it's up 82%. My only reservations are this dollar area is a make or break for these ones that are coming from south of $1. So I know the shorts are interested in getting short here, and I know people who are holding this from the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s are interested in taking profits at the dollar. Not just because it's the dollar, but because it's consolidating and has been consolidating at this level, I want to say, since about 112. It's 154 now. So I don't see the setup that I need to see in order to get in. Otherwise, I may get caught on the wrong end of the lower highs. And here we are again, coming back into that dollar. Let's see if their buyers are going to be stepping in at this level. Maybe kind of gauge whether or not we have a size backstop. And what by that I mean, In the same way that you're looking at the level 2 to see if there's anybody preventing you from ascending, in the same way that it's usable to see if there's anybody backstopping you to prevent us from descending. So you're looking for the big buy orders on the bid in the same way that you're looking for those big sell orders on the ask. And when you just do a quick comparison right here, just from what we can see, we have 300 lots on each gateway on the ask and about 100 lots on each gateway or on the 2 large gateways on the bid. So right away, from what we can see, I say no. But oftentimes with these small cap gappers, it's not what we can see, it's what we can't see. So you can only use that as a partial piece of information. So I think I'm going to steer clear of this one for the moment, just given the fact that we've got about 5 minutes left on the show. And in addition, it really isn't showing me that it's got the, the compunction to want to break out. Again, I see higher lows, but I also see lower highs. I think I'm going to steer clear of this one for now. Let's go to the other trade that I've got on, which is sskn. I'm basically, depending on whether you're looking at the bid or the ask, flat or 5 pennies in the money. I've only gotten one print at 50s. The other ones have been at 49s as well as 42s and 44s. That was an earlier trade. There's nothing for me at this moment from what I see on sskn. Just having a look at the side chart over here. That's it, really. I mean, I don't see anything else. Just checking the quick scanner on the top. No, nothing's coming in that's doing volume, guys. So it is going to be a bit of a light afternoon on a Friday for these small cap gappers. I'm seeing AREB possibly working in here to the volume weighted average price. Let's have a look at that. So this one did a bit of a double top at 55, but it is sort of a, this is the 5-minute chart, by the way. I did a double top at 55s, dropped all the way back down into 20s, and now it's being bought up here about 15 pennies off the area low, trying to reclaim the volume weighted average price. If it gets above 38, it'll be a bit of a gap between 38 and 55, as there's really no price action between those levels. So that's another one that you can keep an eye on, but again, not setting up in the most ideal situation for me, so we'll steer clear of that one. John wants me to look at RUM. Let's have a look at Rumble. Rumble barely going green here, John. It's just up 0.5%, but it's got a nice bull flag with volume right at 1230 price spike, gets up into 724, goes green on the day. But it could quickly lose that green if it loses $7.19. That's a break-even point. That is yesterday's closing print on Rumble. So not a bad look, John, but not really strictly a small cap gapper and not exactly a big percentage winner on the day, Joey.
All right, good look there. Yeah, there goes Tesla. Big time breakout. Volume starting to pick up. 5-minute candle, we have 435,000 shares traded on this interval right here. So now 435.51. Let's pull up the old chain ski to see what we got going on there. Tina Man is, he has to be at least $15 in the money, I'm going to be guessing now, considering I think he mentioned at 432. I'm just going to wait for his reply in the chat to see what he is actually up on that one. 440, at that 440 strike price, guys, 115,000 contracts traded. That's the volume there, not even the open interest, 20,600 at that 440 strike price. So a pretty good look. And I mean, if you go across the board, we may as well pull it up for you guys. You got 250,000 contracts traded. Let's see here. Yeah, contracts already traded at 430, so extremely bullish stuff right there. Not too bad of a look whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, Tesla just doing Tesla things. Let's pull up the liquidity on these things. They'll essentially look like a intraday chart, considering, right? Like when you have that many shares being traded, I don't know why it always goes to a 2 hour, right? Like you would never have guessed that this was an options contract, eliminate what's ever up in this corner, and be like, yeah, this is a pretty liquid underlying. Oh, it went from a okay, let's go. What the actual helly? This is insane. Okay, so if you go from 10:30 this morning, this is the expiration. This is the power of the options, right? So if you happen to be the lucky individual to grab these contracts at the low for $1, less than $1, no, that's not correct there. It's 58 cents. 58 cents to where we're currently trading at is almost 1,000%. On today's expiration alone, if you were to happen to snipe that, obviously it's what if history and hindsight, but that displays to you guys the power of some of these contracts. And I understand. So like in the likes of Tesla, you only have 0 DTE on Fridays, and a lot of equities as well too. But with SPY and Qs, you have 0 DTEs every single day, or 1 day till expiration. But this is some big time move, 951% on those specific contracts. I hope someone took advantage of that, because that is some big time cash and a big time capital appreciation. But guys, it is now 2 o'clock. It's the end of the midday show. We're heading into the weekend, Sharif. Send it over to the big boys.
Hey, what up? I'll be here in a minute. No, I was actually